Nitro is the glory, but E-Buggy pays the bills.
I hate doing it like that. So joining me this week is a legend in the RC community. I've met him recently in the last year or so. I've had the pleasure of hearing some of his stories in the pits and the banter between him and Greg and Richard at the 40 plus races, and I love it. I think it's awesome. I'd like to welcome the fabulous one, Mr. Barry Baker. How are you, sir?
Hey, Keenan, what's happening? How are you?
I know we've been trying to do this for a while. I remember you even tried to call into the show one night when Wally was on. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to have you on. And let's do this, man. So let's let everybody know where you're from, Barry. You're from California?
Yes, I'm from California. I live out here in the LA area. I'm originally from San Diego.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been out here. I moved up into LA in '94. And now myself and my girlfriend, we own a house up in Azusa, which is east of Los Angeles, about 20 miles or so. And okay. I work in Pasadena at California Institute of Technology. So, and then do my consulting with Team Losi as well.
That's right. But before you was an upstanding citizen of the regular world or a civilian clothes, you was a professional driver and one of the best in touring car and pretty much anything that you touch. I mean, you're a two-time national champion in touring car. You don't have a world championship, but we're going to talk about that. But you finished second 3 times. TQ'd in South Africa, I believe you TQ'd in 2002, and you have multiple Reedy race in touring car wins, correct?
Yeah, total of 14 national titles.
Wow, that's impressive. That's super impressive.
And then 3-time TQ at the Worlds, 3-time second place.
Wow.
Just couldn't get the win. And then 5-time Reedy Race US champion, 8-time worldwide Reedy Race champion, including a nitro touring car Reedy race.
Wow, so, I didn't realize that. See, this is what shocked me when I got researching you. I really got the scope of how big touring car was at the time and you was doing it. Right. And I don't even understand it fully. So that's one of the questions I want to ask you. But to hear that they had a nitro touring car Reedy race, a world Reedy race, I didn't even know that. I know they had the electric off-road version like in England at one time, but I didn't realize they had a world Reedy race.
Well, we did. So there's actually in touring car, there's been Reedy races in Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan,
really,
England, Spain. We did one where we had electric and nitro. And then I'm trying to think if there was another one. No, that's I think Germany wasn't a Reedy race, but I think we went there. Mike and I went there for a race for something. But yeah, I won 5-time US being or I'm sorry, 4-time US. Yeah, 4-time US, 8-time worldwide. Excuse me on that. I keep saying 5-time, but it's 4-time. It was 2 times at Ripon in California. Sorry, my memory's gone. I'm old now.
No worries.
Yeah, just turned 50. Holy cow!
In May, I was watching an interview before we came on here.
Yeah, 50. We're going on 51. So 2 times at Ripon, California, which was the Reedy race started. And then 2-time at Aliso Viejo, the Tamiya track. And then I won a Reedy race in Thailand, which was an international Reedy race for touring car. One in England, one in Hong Kong. And then also there was a nitro touring car Reedy race along with electric that was in Spain. And I won the nitro one. And Billy Easton won the electric one while we were there.
Really? Billy Easton was a badass on-road driver too? I didn't know that.
Billy and Mark, they were super fast. And with the TC3 when it first came out. And I mean, even throughout, I mean, Mark was really fast in nitro touring car as well. Mark, I TQ'd the 2002 touring car worlds in Cincinnati, the World Cup. And then we had 3 cars in the top 4. That was when the top 4 transferred straight to the main and on road.
Okay.
was the Nitro TC3, and it was just had come out, and we'd done maybe a year or so on it, and I TQ'd. Mark was third, and Billy was fourth qualifier. So 3 cars directly into the final with Michael Salvin, the legend
guy
from Serpent. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the second qualifier there. So we had 3 out of the 4, and then in the main, we took off, and about 4 laps in, I go around a corner, my car just spins out, and I broke a diff screw in the rear of the car.
And you never broke one before. I remember you said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cliff, I called Cliff after the race, and Cliff let, and he said, well, those things are rated to like break 1 out of every 30,000 or something screws. And he goes, good thing it happened to you and not a customer. I said, awesome, at a Worlds.
Yeah, at a Worlds. Wow. Yeah, impressive. And that's crazy.
But the impressive thing about that weekend, the whole thing was about 10 minutes into a 60-minute final, Mark's radio spring, his steering wheel spring broke on him.
Really?
Yeah. So he had to drive. I don't know if you've ever driven a wheel radio and taken the spring out and tried to get that thing to center.
No, but I've seen one before with a snapped spring.
It's almost impossible to get that thing to go straight.
Of course.
And Mark drove 50 minutes of that race with a broken and won the race.
No, that's incredible, man. When you talk about things like that, I've had Pavitas on her, but now that you talk from you and you think of things like that, you can, and others that have talked to him, you can see how good of a racer he actually was and how competitive he was.
He's by far one of the greatest that I've ever seen, and still to this day, I mean, if he put time into it, he still would be fast.
No, so it's impressive.
Now he's got his son Ryan out there running, so that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man.
Comes to the track and ride with him.
Yeah. All right. So I like to ask everybody that comes on here, because we might have some people that don't know who you are. There might be some new people in RC that don't know who you are. But I always like to find out how you got into RC cars. Like, what was your first experience with an RC car, and how did that work? How did that happen for you?
Okay, it was back in. I was a late starter actually in RC. I started in '86, and so that put me at 16, right before I turned 16.
Okay,
I think I started in like April of '86, and that was really big. The San Diego scene was pretty good at the time, but I was riding skateboards at the time, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Del Mar Skate Park, the ranch.
Yes.
That was the original ranch skate park.
Right.
And that's why when the ranch pit shop, they had a track down there. That's what held the '87 Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I started in 1986.
Do you remember your first car?
I do. Car? Well, I remember seeing these. I was riding my skateboard in the freestyle area, which was right next. There was a fence that separated the freestyle pool.
Mm-hmm.
Big, long freestyle pool. I wasn't very good at skateboarding. Okay,
all right. I was about to ask, was you any good at it?
Oh, no. But I did hang out with Tony Hawk when we were younger, because he's 2 years older than I am.
All right.
He, San Diego, he was always at Del Mar. I mean, I knew Alan Losey from skateboarding, not from RC racing, because I hung out there. I mean, I was a local there. My house was, 5 minutes away by bicycle.
Okay.
From Del Mar skate and the Del Mar racetrack right there.
Wow.
We lived right up on the hill in Solana Beach. So, I mean, I would ride my bike to with my skateboard on my back and go to the skateboard park and hang out there all weekend long. Cause for a kid, you get a pass, and it was like, a monthly pass was like $30 or something like that back then. Mm-hmm. So you could go anytime you wanted. And it was the old school, those old '80s movies of kids hanging out at the skate park and eating pizza and drinking. Yeah. I mean, that's how it was. And then they had the big, contests and everything. And so I would just hang out there. But I remember in the skate park, I was in the freestyle pool and just cruising around and probably falling like I normally did. And I look across the fence and I see these people that are driving. And at the time, it was a dirt oval. They had a little off-road track in the center of it, but they were really big for dirt oval. Mm-hmm. And somehow it was one of those big weekends. They had some big weekend race down there. I don't know if it was a JG race or whatever it was, but it might have been just a series race. But Eddie and Linda Perez owned the track. It was called E&L Raceway. They had purchased it from Pops Losi. And they moved the track. It was back near a driving range, and they moved it from there to where it sat at the time that I saw it. And I'm watching these people go around the track, and I literally went, I could do that. That doesn't look that hard.
Really?
That was
I think most people say that too nowadays.
That was my first thought. So I saw it. I'm like, I could do that. But then, time passed and everything. And I was big time into golf at the time. And so I would play golf a lot, through junior high school, played on the golf team. But I was with my mother on our way to the Price Club, which was before Costco. Okay. That's what Price Club turned into Costco. And there was one in San Marcos. And there was which is in like northeastern San Diego. And we were going to Price Club, and I said, can we go to the golf shop? Well, if we went into a golf shop, I would spend $150, $200 every time in there, no matter what.
That's a lot of money back then in the 80s.
Well, yeah, but I mean, golf was expensive. I would get like a new putter or this or something like that. I would convince my mom that I needed 4 dozen new golf balls or something. Who knows?
Right.
But it was more along the lines of, let's go and do this. And so while we were in the Price Club, I saw an RC car, and it sprung in my head, I can go do this. Mm-hmm. And it was a Tamiya Frog.
Really? They sold it in the supermarket?
It was one of those combo packs. It was a Tamiya Frog combo pack that came with that brick battery, which was the 5x1 with the one little battery on top, and because it fit perfectly into, and it was a hard case. And it came with the over the night charger that you plugged into the wall. It was a trickle charger. And then it also came with a stick radio.
Mm-hmm. Was it the old Futaba ones? I think.
No, it was a Tamiya stick radio.
Really?
It was junk. It was like gray or something like that.
Did you ever have one of the radios that had the slide and the steering wheel? So you had
No. The old Futaba that they actually they modified and put slot car. They put slot car handles on the backside of the radio. Somebody mounted a slot car gun on the backside of the radio and triggered it into, that was the throttle. And that's where the whole pistol grip came from.
Really? I knew that.
Yeah. That's where it pretty much started. Mm-hmm. They had the old box Futaba radios that had it was like a little switch on the side that would go both ways.
I remember that's what I'm talking
wheel on the front. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody adapted a slot car trigger pistol to the backside of one and wired it in and got it there. And that's what started the whole pistol grip.
No way. Insane.
Yeah.
So you got this Tamiya car. Now, did you go bashing, or did you go right to Rand's pit stop with it?
This is the best thing that happened. Okay. So I got it on a Friday night. I remember it, completely remember it. So I'm there on a Friday night. And I start building the thing.
Okay.
And it's a kit. It's not, people are lucky they got pre-built these days, these ready to runs.
And you probably was using the L-shaped Allen hexes that would always round out and were hard as heck to use anyway.
I use household tools.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got, all this crap and everything, and I'm trying to use household screwdrivers that don't fit and all this other stuff. And I end up building the thing, and then we get to painting the body. Okay. So I think I'm going to be cool, and I'm going to put a racing stripe. I don't even see that there's window mask. So my cool thing about racing stripe is it said make sure to tape your windows and your design. Like in the manual, it said this. I didn't know you had to use a special kind of tape, so I busted out Scotch tape.
Oh boy.
And I used Scotch tape to tape a racing stripe right down the center.
Right.
Now, what's the first rule in painting? Paint the darker colors first, the lighter colors last, so nothing bleeds through, right? Okay, I painted white, and then I painted a red stripe down the center of it. After trying to get the Scotch tape off. Yeah, it looked like a bloody mess.
Oh my gosh.
When I was done with it. So, but I got to, so we're talking about, we're talking about a Tamiya Frog that had the knobby front tires and then the holiday buggy rear tires on it. And it's got the 5-step speed control in it.
Wiper.
The wiper speed control that was like 3 steps forward, and then it had 2 steps of reverse, really slow, and then just full speed. And when it went into reverse, it seemed like it was way faster than it went forward. And then I'm on like an AM radio that, is, I don't even know what frequency I'm on. And so I decided I'm going to go to the track. But I thought that the battery was fully charged. Like it came fully charged. So I never even plugged in the battery overnight while I'm trying to build this thing.
Oh, man.
So I'm just a mess trying to get onto the track the first time. And when I got onto the track, I ended up going and I went like 1 lap and my whole car died because I didn't know that the battery was not.
And you had to wait, and I was an overnight charger, so you would have to wait all night to charge it up.
Well, somehow, some way, I met a guy named Danny Yeager, who I still know to this day, who still races.
Really?
He was nice enough that he charged my battery for me, but then he's like, you can't use that speed control. By the end of the night, I had spent like $150 on new stuff. So I got this Novak 2 speed control, the electronic speed control that somebody sold me for like $50. And then I got him to wire this thing up, and I got a new battery pack, but I'm still running a Frog, and I don't even have the right tires on my car. So the next day, there's a race there. So that was a Saturday. The Sunday, there was a club race there, and I entered in rookie class, and I went out there, and I still got my stick radio, still rocking the sticks, still rocking the Frog. And just like they said, like everybody says all the time, once you win your first race, you're hooked. And I raced rookie my very first race, and I mean, I literally was getting absolutely smoked by a person who had a real dirt oval car and everything. But I was the only other person that could actually get around the track in rookie.
Really?
And this guy completely wadded his car up with like 2 minutes to go and like broke his car. And I was already like 4 laps down, I think, in an oval race at like the 2-minute mark. And all I had to do was like putt around, and I ended up winning. And it was like really cool. My very first, rookie race that I ever raced. And I was like, you're hooked from there. I can tell you this much. The Frog didn't last very long. There was an RC10 that was in my hands the next week. And then I was building it up, and then I realized that RC racing can be very expensive.
Really, I imagine.
Really quick. So I mean,
so you did start an off-road. I'm still here. My camera's. I didn't.
I started in dirt ovals. I made an RC10 dirt oval conversion.
Oh,
I
didn't realize it was so big back then.
Trackmaster, they all had dirt oval conversions. You could take a dirt oval. Andy's RC made parts for dirt oval cars. Oh yeah, it was a big deal where they made dirt oval conversions. But my big thing, what I like to do is, I mean, I think dirt oval is awesome, and I think the RC Chili Bowl is cool. That just finished up this weekend. I actually watched the RC Chili Bowl a little bit. That was pretty awesome to see. I wish more people would have adhered to all of the rules and everything there. This RC racing that's going on in this pandemic, people say, oh, you got to wear masks and you got to do this and you got to do that. For people who have underlying health issues like myself, that's the reason why I'm not going to races, because I watched the first couple races, and you have all these race directors that says we will make you wear, you know, mask, and we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do this. And you see pictures even of superstars and they don't have masks on, or they're down around their, you know, their mouth and stuff like that. It's like, if people aren't going to, you know, live by the rules, then
Yeah, I understand that. I
yeah.
understand that. I'm
And I mean,
actually,
that's the tough thing for me.
yeah, like I'm kind of trying to figure out about DNC coming up here
Right.
in February, if I'm gonna go or what I'm gonna do. So I'm just kind of waiting here to the end of the month and then I'll make my decision. But I'm not sure. I want to go. I really do. But for me, I, I don't want to get sick either. Obviously, I'm you know, I'm a prime target for that. But for me, like I just like my biggest fear is getting stuck in America or not being able to come back. No, I mean, I'm like if I get stuck there, I don't have my insurance, all that type of stuff. All my life is
We have
here. So
Ty Tessman's here now.
I see that. I see that.
It's easier. I talked to Gord. It's easier for Ty and Gord to come here
Mhm,
to America, because America's like, here, come on in.
mhm. But
We're
going
letting
back,
everybody in. We're letting everybody in. But the countries that people are coming from aren't letting them back.
right? That's
Like,
that's the problem.
so like if Gord, they're down here for the warm-up race, right?
Mhm.
So if they were down here for the warm-up race and they went home, they would have to quarantine for 14 days at home before they can do anything else, which puts them to where they couldn't
Right.
even come. They'd be right on the time schedule to come back for the
They might
regular.
as well just stay in California to the race.
They're actually going to do, they're going to do the warm-up race, and then they're going to do there's a JBRL finals at Thunder Alley the following week, which I think will be very big because you're going to have 2 weeks of running on the
Mhm.
Thunder Alley track.
That's what they need. They haven't been really racing much, obviously.
And then they're going to Chicago, I think, for the Chi-Town shootout. And then they'll come back for the DNC. So they're spending like a month's worth of racing out here just because they can do that, and it makes it easier for them to go there.
I
I mean,
understand that.
I would love for Dakota to come out and do all these races and everything, except, you know, he's busy with, you know, other things. So
Yeah.
we're trying to just make sure that everything's ready to go.
We're gonna talk about fan later on. Um,
Okay.
but back
But
I
back to
yeah.
getting starting racing. So it was dirt oval, right? Um, and then they decided they were going to level the dirt oval track, or they were gonna expand it and make it into off road. So I got into off road a little bit, and I had the very first JRX2 to ever hit San Diego.
How'd you manage that one?
I worked at a hobby shop.
Okay.
And it was like the only hobby shop in like San Diego at the time that like got the cool stuff. Every
Right.
other one was like hobby people and Playco toys that had hobbies, but this was an actual hobby shop.
Gotcha.
And yeah, we ordered one and it came in, and I said, I'm taking that. And the hobby shop owner said, no, you're not. And I said, I'll pay full retail for it. He goes, then if you pay full retail for it, then you can have it. I ended up getting it at our cost, but still. But yeah, so I built it up that night and went out and raced it with the orange Star wheels, but started racing off road, really fell into off road. But then at that time we could race. I was telling people there was a time back in San Diego where we had 7 different tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
you could race club racing 6 nights a week.
Wow. That's a lot of tracks.
It was awesome. I mean, the
What
best
was the turnout at a track like that on a Wednesday night at one of those club races?
What was that again?
What was like the participation rate? How many people would you see on like a Wednesday night club race back then?
70 to 100 people.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was on a weekday. On the weekends, we would get up to 150 people.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
There was a racetrack that was outdoors at the San Diego Stadium. And that was pretty cool on Friday nights. You would have to get there at 3:00 in the afternoon to start lining up to get in the gate at 5:00 because they would like start turning people away.
No, these are all off-road tracks, right?
This was off-road.
Mm-hmm.
This was all off-road. Probably one of the best tracks I've ever raced at was a place called the Naval Training Center, San Diego Naval Training Center. And it was taken care of by some of the naval guys like Chuck Erickson, who still lives in Colorado, who moved to Colorado from San Diego. and some other guys like Crazy Kevin, the guy who's involved at Crazy Kevin's Hobbies down in San Diego. They were all naval guys. So, but they had red clay. They had
like
East Coast red clay at that track. Somehow they had red clay.
Wow.
And
you don't see that in California at all.
No, but it had a little mixture of sand in it. So it was a little weird. It wasn't like tacky. It was a little weird. It wasn't like racing at Lake Park, but it was because your car got orange. But it was that track was awesome. But when you went there and you were a regular civilian and you weren't military, it was right next to the bowling center. Okay. Well, the bowling center had like a snack bar inside, but you couldn't purchase anything from the snack bar if you weren't military. Right. So you used to have to like wait for people to like go in and be like, dude, can you get me a burger and a Coke or something like that? You know? And then, but they used to have like, big on-road races in the parking lot at the Naval Training Center too. The people that were there were into RC at the training center, and they let people, you know, do things down there. But then at an A scale nitro race down there, somebody got hit and they broke a leg, and that was the end of racing on the Naval Training Center. It was the end of it for off-road too. They said there's too much liability here.
Right. Now, what years was this? Was the late 80s, early 90s we're talking about this?
This was probably 86 through early 90s, 91, 92.
Okay, so at this time was you like making waves? Was you sponsored? What like, I guess I kind of want to know like where you went after the Dirt Oval and all that stuff, like your path to becoming a pro. And
I met Mike Reedy through Dirt Oval.
Okay.
And I met Eric Soderquist. I don't know if you've ever heard of his name. He was the motor guy for Twister Motors. Mike Walker, who owned Twister.
I remember the motors, but I wouldn't know those guys. I just read about them in the magazines. The motors.
You know who Chris Moore is, right?
Yes.
From Michigan.
Yes.
Okay. Chris lived 3 blocks away from me.
Really?
I knew Chris, but I didn't know him until I got into RC. But we grew up like 3 blocks away from each other.
Was he into RC when you met him? Well, obviously.
Yeah, he was a superstar back then.
Really?
And he would come in, I'd see him in the magazines like Competition Plus, and then he would come into our hobby shop to get, you know, little things like motor spray or this or that. And I'd be like, that's the guy on the front of the magazine right there, you know, Competition Plus, because he just won the Reedy race at Hot Tracks.
Oh,
in 88. So, I mean, it was like, or 87 or 88, somewhere in that era. And I mean, it was, so I started talking to him, and we had been, you know, we started, you know, talking, and he ran for Twister, and him and some other guys from down there in San Diego, and they had a big dirt oval race. So I met Soderquist, and then Soderquist started helping me out with motors. But I'd known Mike Reedy, and me and this guy, me and my friend Tyler used to race like every week, and Tyler ended up getting sponsored by Reedy and Associated, and I didn't. So I was kind of bummed. And, but then eventually, you know, I got sponsored. Reedy started helping me with motors and stuff like that. And
when we're talking sponsor, we're like talking like help because he was really motors with him. Yeah.
I wasn't paying for anything, but I wasn't back then being sponsored was you were 100%. There was no 50% drivers.
Right.
You know, you were 100%. And I mean, there was only, you know, a couple handful of people that were sponsored.
Right.
Back then. You were just getting help from people.
Okay.
And I finally got my first 100% sponsor was Twister Motors.
Really? Now, how was it back then? Did they travel? Did you just stay in the local area there, or did you travel outside of your region?
I was doing everything. I mean, God rest his soul, Kinwald and we met at a race, and we just clicked. Him and I. Him and I. He's by far was my best friend in RC.
Really?
Yeah. I used to go up to Costa Mesa and spend the weekend up at his house in Fountain Valley one weekend, and we'd go racing, and then he would come down and race down in San Diego and stay at my place. So it was we were really good friends. And I mean, I really miss the guy. I still to this day.
what is it that made? I know we're kind of going off tangent, but I knew he was going to do that on this anyway. But I
I
would
don't.
like to. I
We're
don't
going
care
in
either.
75 different directions today.
That's
Trust
fine. That's fine. What was it about talking about Kinwald? Because I just knew him from the magazines and never, way before I even got involved in the industry. But what was it that made him Kinwald and just dominant in his time?
me.
Really?
His passion to win,
Did he do? Was he like I heard Greg when I Degani, he was saying, I did what I did everything I needed to do to win. You know what I mean?
including
And
cheat.
yeah, well, the gray area. Was he one of those guys, or was he one of those guys? I'm gonna win within the parameters that I have, and just do my best I can.
There's guys like that now
Mhm.
that take a car. I'll put Cavallari, and I'll put a lot of the times Mayfield, Tebow, Dakota, the top guys, Ronnefolk.
Mhm.
They have a car and they know it can't do something, so they don't go for it. Do you
Okay.
understand what I'm saying? They drive their car within the means of what it's going. If it's not set up right for that qualifier, they drive it to the best of their ability. They take their qual points and they move on from there. Okay. Where a for somebody, you tell people don't overdrive your car. Well, those guys never overdrive their car.
I get what you mean.
They take it right to the point, and that's all they can do. If they don't have the grip, they drive right to the point of where it's going to lose grip, and that's it. And wherever the cards fall for that qualifier. But then you have a lot of people who say, well, if I don't have a grip, I'm going to make the grip. You're not going to make the grip. You're just going to lose time over and over and over again.
Mhm.
So what Kinwald did was he found that extra 10th. That 10th that nobody else could find, he found it. Now, was it because he turned his tires inside out and became the first bar tire? He's the one. He took a taper pin and he cut it open and he turned it inside out, put foam in there, and the inside carcass is what the BK bar was.
Wow.
Okay. And he did it because the tracks were evolving. But I knew Brian was going to be incredible, and I knew Brian was going to be a pain in the butt to go racing with. When we went to a track in La Mirada one time, and we used to run these Kyosho fuzzy tires. That was the tire. And they were such a small pin, you could just blow the pin off, right? And the pin would just be feathered after one run. And he would come back and not even work on his car. He would take his tires off his car. There were 1,000 pins on each one of those tires.
Wow.
And between qualifiers, he would just snip the edges of every single pin to make them sharp again, and then go back out there and race before the final.
Guys would even run those tires nowadays. They just have one runs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right. But this was the way Kinwald was. He knew what to do. He was by far the best with tire prep that ever was.
Interesting.
So
that's amazing, man. It's cool to hear personal stories from people that knew him so well. And I would guess he was an early influence and early memories, because that was my next question. Who were your early influences in those days? And we've talked about some of your early memories, but who was the guy you looked up to coming up? Or was it like, I want to beat, or the guy that you wanted to beat beat him and be better?
I don't think I mean, I had some local guys down in San Diego that I always wanted to beat.
Right.
I mean, but
That's what I mean. And when you was coming up as in your early racing career, who was the guy that influenced you, or a guy that you just had to beat?
I don't even I mean, I don't, when I started going to big races, it was like, I mean, I was in the G main and the H main and stuff like that. And I mean, back when they had those before, when there were only 2 classes instead of 22 classes and only a B main, you put on your resume, oh, I make every A or B main. That's because there's only 19 people in the race. No, this is back in the day when you actually had 2 classes, stock and modified. And the professionals or the sponsored guys raced both classes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They would race. They would race stock and they would race modified. So,
Well, stock wasn't like it was now, is it? Back
what do
then,
you mean?
like just crazy money, lightening up everything. I mean, I'm sure. Well, back then you did a lot of that stuff yourself.
We'll talk about stock later
Okay.
because that's definitely one subject that we need to talk about in this day and age of racing. But it's not stock; it's stockified anyway.
I
Um,
actually think it should be called modified now.
I mean, I could tell you that half the time the top qualifier in stock would be somewhere in the A qualifier and modified.
There you
So
go.
yeah.
All right. All right.
No, as far as influence and stuff, Cliff was always a big influence to me.
Mhm.
Like he was at the top of the game, him and when Jay Halsey showed up, it was like, oh, there's Jay Halsey and um
These guys were superstars.
they were
Superstars.
Cliff was a stud. I mean, he had his Oakleys and
Yes.
his dolphin shorts and his, tank tops and
Yeah.
he'd show up at races. He was definitely he was the guy to beat when you went to races.
Really.
And then you had, Gil O.C. Jr. and, Jack Johnson.
I keep hearing Jack Johnson's name. I don't know him.
Oh, Jack was the Motown Missile. That's what he won the Detroit Nationals and got a motor, Revelation motor or
Really.
Revolution motor. Rick Howard, when I started racing on road, he was, the guy.
Mhm.
And I mean, when he sponsored me, I thought it was like the greatest thing ever.
Wow.
And going to races with him and Randy Hunter.
How
I mean,
old were you when you were going to races with these guys?
I started my very first big race that I ever went to. I was 19 years old.
Okay.
I didn't go. I mean, I went to some bigger races like '88. I'd drive to some races. The first race I ever flew to was 1989. 12 scale nationals in Arizona. Now I flew there, but I flew there with like my sister. She was my chaperone at the time because she's 3 years older and she went to party. And because we were like near Arizona State University, it was
Oh
in
yeah.
the old SRS. And oh yeah, I think I got second at that race. That was my very first. This was the big thing because I was the hot shoe in stock at that time in 12 scale outdoor racing.
Okay.
But on the West Coast. And then there was John Orr. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's from the East Coast. He was from Rome, New York, and he was the hot shoe 12 scale stock guy. And we ended up meeting at the Nationals, and neither of us won.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess when did it start clicking that hey, I can do this for a living? I guess when did you start making RC car racing a living?
When I had to.
Okay. But you always did you always work in the industry to that
No,
point? Oh, okay.
no. And so in 19, I would pretty much say this is how it really started is I was good enough to be sponsored and I was good enough I was getting travel taken care of. But I wasn't getting a paycheck.
Okay.
I mean, in order to get a paycheck back then, you had to work in the industry. You had to work for the factory.
Mhm.
Kinwald was working for Associated and Mark and Billy were working for Associated and Cliff was working, Cliff was the head guy at Associated and all this other stuff. So,
You had to have a real like a job title there.
yeah, you had to at least have a job title. Like they would make room like for Billy, it's like, and Kinwald and Pavitas was like, here, cut brushes or something like that in the motor department.
Yeah.
But they would make room.
Right. I get it. Just
Like
so
they
they were
did,
doing
like they
something.
did for me when I first started. I mean,
Mhm.
to get a paycheck. But so in 1993, I was 23 years old and I was working for Cobra Golf at the time. And I was making all of they just came out. I was a golfer, like I said. And luckily my dad's friend who he grew up with in high school owned the company, before they sold it to Titleist. But so they gave me a job, and I was working with the R&D department because I understood about golf clubs. So I worked, and I was making all these new face balanced mallet putters, and I was doing that. And a job opened up at Cobra Golf for tour club maker, like assistant for all the tour players. And at that time, it was Greg Norman, Hale Irwin, and a bunch of other guys that were playing for Cobra. And you would go to the course, and you would, fit them and then come back, make clubs, do, weird stuff. And I applied for that job, and I didn't get it. And I didn't get it because I wasn't experienced enough, but I thought I should have got it. I thought I was the most, knowledgeable person to be able to get that job, and it pissed me off. And I pretty much said, now that I didn't get that job, I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing because I don't know where I'm going to go here. And I decided I was going to take a job. I had this opportunity the weekend before that happened that I got turned down. I had an opportunity that arose in Orange County Orange County, California, which was, 45 minutes, an hour north of where I was living, to go take a job up there with the guy who owned RCO, which is Orange County, RCO. Yeah. RC Off-Road, Orange County. And it used to be, do you know Brent Figge?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, Brent Figge's dad used to own RCO, but he owned a tire center as well.
Okay.
He said, hey, let me give you a job, and you can work at the tire center, and then you can go to races and do all this other stuff. And then you can help out at the hobby shop when it is, but I'll give you a job at the tire center. So I decided I was going to take a leap of faith and move out for the first time. So I moved out of my house when I was 23 years old, moved out of my parents' house finally at 23 years old. Now that's late for a lot of people, but yeah, I was like pretty much, sponging and, being able to go to races. And I mean, I didn't have any bills, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted to do.
Well, so you moved out.
What's that?
And you moved out, you had bills.
I moved out, and then I realized what bills are.
Yeah.
But when I was looking around, I decided that, who am I going to move in with? I need a roommate. You can't afford to live in Orange County, California without a roommate, especially back then when I was young and I didn't really have a job. So Mike Reedy's son, Darren Westman, Darren and I moved in together.
Oh, yeah.
And we went and got a thing, we went and got an apartment and all this other stuff. And so I started working for this Daytona Tire Center. I moved up to Orange County, and I've been up in, the LA area for 27 years now.
How long did that last at the tire center? And
geez, let's see. I was at the tire center for maybe 3 months or so. And then, wait. This is a good story.
Okay.
So I'm at the front counter. Guy comes in and says, is that your business license up there? Can I see that to get a number off of it?
Oh, gosh.
I hand it to him. The guy puts it into a briefcase and says, you guys are now closed. It was the federal government because the owner of the shop's brother, who was the manager, had not been turning in taxes for like the last 5 years or something like that.
Oh, wow. So they really got shut down.
They said you have 15 minutes to gather all your belongings, and then this place is all going to be locked up. And within 15 minutes, there was about 20 people there putting tape and locks on everything.
What did you do then?
Wait. So this person that owned the tire company also owned a construction company.
Oh, Lord.
And do you remember what happened? I moved up here in 1994. Do you remember what happened in 94 in January?
No, I was still a young man.
Oh, the Northridge earthquake happened January 7th, 1994, and leveled northern Los Angeles. Well, so Figge had a construction company. He said, well, sorry what happened here. Come work at the construction company. You can work in demolition. He goes, and I said, what's that? And he goes, you'll have fun with it. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning the next morning to drive up north to go to this place that I have to be there by like 6 o'clock. Okay. They're working until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just destroying stuff, like taking hammers to like fountains, houses, just leveling houses because they're going to build them back up.
Right.
That was not for this fat kid. I'll tell you that much.
Construction's hard, man.
I did it one day.
No
Never
way.
showed back up again.
Oh, that guy must have been pissed off at you.
No. I just told him I can't do that.
Okay.
And he goes, well, I don't have another job for you and everything. So how do I tell my parents that I failed within the first 4 months of living, of leaving?
I know.
Now I'm like robbing from Peter to pay Paul and, doing all this other stuff and, trying to find odd jobs and do this and do that and do this. And for like a year, I'm like bouncing around places. And finally, one day, and then at one point, I was actually Reedy, because I was living with Reedy's son. Reedy goes, how are we going to be able to get you to pay rent? Because, I was like late for rent, like every month for like 6 months straight. And I was hoping to God, I was gambling, playing poker at the poker houses, trying to get money, and I would have a bad losing streak. And then you're like borrowing money from other people. I think I even borrowed from a loan shark, which I didn't know he was a loan shark, but I borrowed. But luckily that night I won and got to pay him back the next day. And I didn't realize that he was an actual loan shark until somebody said, dude, if you didn't pay him back the next day, you probably would have had a broken leg or a broken arm. I didn't know. I was just like, this guy's handing out money, dude, give me $1,000. I'm good. Yeah, but then at that one point, Reedy just said, okay, we got to find you a way for you to make some money. So I started taking all the Yokomo teardowns that they were making their things and soldering brushes and soldering capacitors at home. I was doing this all at home. Okay. And I was working as an outside contractor for like piecework for Reedy Modifieds at the time. And he'd give me a case, and a case of motors was 400 motors at the time. I could do a case in less than a day.
Really?
And I was getting like, and getting like a buck a motor and stuff like that. And you doing like, 8 hours.
That's
you're looking
$400 a day.
That's $400 a day. No. Right. That's if I had enough work, that's like $2,000 a week.
Yeah.
And $2,000 would pay like my monthly bills at the time. So, I'm like, I'm like trying to do as many cases, but then you can only do so much.
Right.
Because there's only so much work when these stuff come in. You can't sell that much stuff, throughout the month.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah. It's not, 1 week I'm like living large and then I spend all my money. And the next week it's like, you got any work for me? He's like, no, I haven't got anything. So yeah. And then, my grandmother helped me out, and I went to my grandmother. She helped out with some stuff, and then had to go to my parents and get some money one time. And I was a mess. I was very irresponsible with everything I did. And just ended up, I was at SoCal, the original SoCal one night, and somebody approached me and said, hey, my name's Joe Maloney and I work for Max Tech Motors. Will you come run for us? We're willing to pay you. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, we got a race that's coming up in an on-road race that was coming up in Vegas. And I'm like, okay, how much are you going to pay me? And he gives me a number and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I'm thinking that's per month. No, they wanted to pay me that per year, and they gave it to me up front. And then the next month, I'm like, "Where's my paycheck?" And they're like, "Oh no, that was per year kind of thing." And I'm like, "Oh man!" So they ended up. That's when it all started. The whole Max Tech thing.
I remember those motors.
Yeah, the Max Tech movement started. Where Hodap, myself, Furitani, we're all living in the guest house of a mansion up in Beverly Hills together. Yeah, with the Max Tech people, because they were living in the guest house, like a 4-bedroom guest house. that was up
Wow.
in the back of a mansion. Oh yeah, on North Bedford in Beverly Hills. My ID said 90210, and this was when Beverly Hills 90210 was like big. So that was my my address on my ID. So when I showed it to people, like back in the Midwest, they're like, "Oh my God, you live in Beverly Hills?" I'm like, "Yes."
Literally.
Yeah, I
How long
literally
did you live there for?
I only lived there like a year or something like that.
You
But it was
you have a very unconventional way to becoming a pro driver. It almost sounds like one of these skater dudes or like dudes that were trying to make it in skateboarding or biking back in the 90s. You was trying to make it as an RC car racer like back in the 90s, like living that 90s couch life.
I was living a couch life and everything.
Wow.
But my biggest break happened when I really realized that I could make a living doing this.
Mhm.
I mean, at that time I was like on living on hopes and dreams.
Sounds like
You
the
know,
JQ budget,
well,
the unicorn budget, we call it.
I mean, I was just getting by doing
Mhm.
whatever I could do, racing, when I could race. Luckily, having people behind me. I mean, I was taking jobs where, I worked for worked for a water distribution place.
Wow, you work everywhere.
Yeah. So, but this was yeah, the water distribution place was kind of funny because they guaranteed you when I went to go, they said, "Okay, you're guaranteed $1,500 a month." And I'm like, "Okay, I could deal with, 1,500, but for every water system that you sell over 5, you get $300 more
Mhm.
per month." Because these water systems that you would sell into these big companies and stuff, they were a water filtration system.
Okay.
And if you went out and you sold them, right? I mean, you would get a $300 commission for every one. You're expected to sell 5 per month,
Right.
and
So
that's
that's
what made it 1,500. And
right. Okay. That's where you got it from.
if you came up short, your quota was 5, right? If you came up short for like 1 or 2 months, they would say, "Oh, that's okay, you'll get them next time," kind of thing, right? But if you sold 0 like I did for 2 months, you got fired because you you didn't go out. You were just guaranteed money. You were
Right.
guaranteed $1,500.
So
So
that didn't last too long either, I take it.
there was this guy that was like rolling in a Mercedes. I said, "What? How did you get that?" And he goes, "Oh, I landed an account with or a job at this high rise place, and they put in like 200 of those filtration systems." So this guy made a bank off of one
Kidding.
job, and he goes, "All you need is one job, and you'll make your year." Right? But those guys wanted to work. I wanted to race.
Right.
Okay. So I put all my work aside and I'm like, as long as they just keep paying me well, if you're not showing up to the meetings, and you're not doing this, eventually they're going to say, "Hey, ho, you
You
got to
think?
go."
You think just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and said bye bye. So now I'm like, what do I do again? And that's when the whole Max Tech thing came around. And then, but I was lucky enough that Max Tech got hooked up with Butch Krolls in Japan as their distributor. Butch was married to Cheiko Yokobori, Tom Yokobori's sister, the owner of Yokomo.
Okay.
So when Butch got like certain people sponsored by Yokomo, one of them being me, and when I got sponsored by Yokomo, I started winning races. And they said, we want to sponsor you and we want to pay you. So
Really?
now I'm getting paid from Max Tech and I'm getting paid from Yokomo.
And this is for touring
This,
car or off-road?
this was for at one point you're gonna get a kick out of this, okay? I'm the only person to ever be sponsored at one time, okay, by Trinity, Yokomo, Team Losi, and Team Associated at the same time.
No, you're gonna have to explain that.
Okay. Trinity, motors and batteries.
Mhm.
Okay. Yokomo, touring car. Okay.
Mhm.
And 4-wheel drive off-road car.
Okay, because AE didn't have one.
Low C, 2-wheel drive and truck,
Okay.
off road, 12 scale, 10 scale pan car from Team Associated, because Low C didn't have touring or on road cars.
And you weren't, and back then you kind of had to run really electronics if you ran AE, correct? So
Right.
yeah, and Trinity was rolling the money back then, and Ernie
Yeah.
was first. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I had at that point, I was living it up. You know,
Oh,
I got all those sponsors and everything was great. And I mean, I worked for Yokomo from 1994 to 2001.
really?
5. Yeah,
Now,
1995 to 2001.
now, was you just a driver, or did you have a title?
We opened up at that point in 1998. Yeah, 1998, they opened up Yokomo, USA
Okay.
in Irvine, California. So I was working there.
Was you not showing up to the meetings either at that job, Barry?
No, I had an awesome office there, but it
Yeah.
was full of RC stuff that, you know, I worked on my car all day long and, you know, shook hands and kissed babies when, you know, people would come to the
Mhm.
shop. It's like, hey, Barry, can you come talk to somebody, you know, about the cars? And it was stuff like that, because at that time, that's when I started making my name.
Now, that's what I want to talk about, because I want to know when touring car was, because people would know you from touring car, obviously. That's where you was. I know you from meeting you at the off-road track, but when did touring car like just fucking take off? Because that's what it done. It came and it just went boom. Because I just remember it dominating the magazines, and that's all everybody talked about for a while.
Probably about 97.
Okay.
But I mean, it was parking lot racing. Tamiya, you know, touring car, and then Yokomo did it. Nobody knew about the Yokomo, the YZ2, or the YR2, whatever it is, TC, and nobody really knew, you know, in the US about the Yokomo stuff. And then the main thing I got sponsored by Yokomo was for 4-wheel drive, because in 95, I don't know if you know this, but in 95, I qualified 3rd in 4-wheel drive and 7th in 2-wheel drive, and finished 6th and 7th at Yatabe Arena for the World Championships in off-road.
Really?
Yeah, I was a half a second from TQing 4-wheel drive. This was back in the day where it was, you know, single run, not qual points. And yeah, I was a half a second from TQing. Kinwald ended up TQing. Mark was second. I was third. Masami was 4th qualifier at his home track in 4-wheel drive.
We're talking about 4 guys there that are no slouches. Like, you know what I mean? We're talking about 4 of like some of the greatest guys to ever touch an RC controller right there.
Yeah,
Not
if you ever
including yourself.
if you ever talk to Rona again,
Mhm.
okay, ask him about the 4-wheel drive worlds at Yatabe, where Rona was 105 pounds sopping wet at that time, maybe. Now he's like 120, but you know,
I think it's a little more than 120. It's pretty
Jason's an awesome guy. God, he's such a great guy. But he at that time he was like, you know, like screaming, Barry, don't hit him, and things like that. Because Mark's slipper in his 4-wheel drive in like the third A main came loose.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And he was like just slipping around the track, and I was like behind him, and they thought I was gonna like take him out because he was gonna win the worlds and stuff. And you know, I wasn't gonna do that. He was, you know, a Yokomo teammate. So
Did you have a name as of being an aggressive driver by that time?
I was always an aggressive driver.
Oh yeah,
I've always been an aggressive driver. But
really?
yeah,
Wow.
always.
There's nothing wrong with it, man. Nothing wrong
Well,
with it at all.
there's aggressive, and then there's, you know, straight taking people out. I have only straight taken somebody out maybe a handful of times.
He says a handful of times. That's a good estimate. So no straight up CTOs, as we call it. No Coelho takeouts. He's actually trying to work on that. So he's
Well,
done a
no,
good
I
job
mean
with that.
everybody. I mean, there was a national where, I mean, I respect the people who respect me, but I drive people how they drive me. If you drive me hard, I'm going to drive you hard.
Mhm.
if you drive me respectful, I'm going to drive you respectful. But I mean, at the last lap is the last lap, kind of situation. And I mean, we're going to go for it. But I'm not going to take the chance of taking you out until the final second or something like that. Because if I do, I want to make sure that
it was worth it.
We don't get past.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So you can still finish first and second.
Yeah. We were at a race in Portland, and this was when Hara was still living in Japan, but coming over for our U.S. Nationals. And I mean, I barely tapped the guy coming through the S section and spun him out. And anybody else would have kept going. And I stopped and I lost the Nationals to him because of that.
Interesting.
Because I know that, he raced me the main before, totally respectful on my bumper. And when he tapped, he would back off kind of thing. So we gained respect for each other when we both ran for Yokomo back in the late 90s, and we would go to Hong Kong and race together. And he called me the parking lot master because we would have these races there. I raced in parking lots in the USA. So I knew what to do to my cars, and these guys were racing on prepared tracks and always running one ways and everything. And I show up and there's a 150-foot back straightaway in Hong Kong into a 90-degree, or almost like a 135 hairpin at the end. And people are checking up 3/4 of the way down the straightaway, because if you touch your brakes on a dusty track with a one-way, you do a donut. Yeah. Not Barry when he's running a diff in the front end that nobody knew about, and I was giving up all kinds of run time, and I didn't have straight line speed, but that amount of time that I gained at the end of the straightaway by being able to use the brakes and just outdrive everybody into corners. I mean, that's why he called me the parking lot master. And I didn't let anybody see my car at that race. And then when the race was done and I won, right, then I let Hara see it, and he goes, "Oh, you sneaky."
Well, I mean, touring car I think that was the reason it was probably so big. It was just, you could do it at any parking lot, and that was super popular. Especially in that time, late 90s, early 2000s, super popular. I remember the Tamiya series that they had. They had like a USA series where you had, I liked the Tamiya because you had like
they still have the Tamiya Championship Series. They still do it. Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
It's not like Viejo anymore. I think the finals are maybe in Omaha now.
Okay.
They still do Fred Medell is still part of it down there. And I think the winner and what is it? Gary, what's Gary's last name? But Gary and Fred at Tamiya, they take care of that. And if you win the US, you get a flight over to the Nationals.
Interesting.
To the World Championships that they have there.
Now, at this time during touring car, are you focused just on touring car, or are you doing off-road at the same time?
I was doing everything. I was doing everything. I think one of the biggest compliments I ever got in RC in my head, and that I heard on the phone, or that I was standing there and I heard in person, was in probably 92, 93, in that range. I'm standing in Cliff Lett's office, and Cliff Lett called Bob Renaud from Airtronics, which was Sanwa in the USA. They were the importer, but it was called Airtronics. And he called up Bob and he said, "Hey, Bob, are you interested in sponsoring another driver?" And at that time, they only had a handful of drivers in the US. I mean, in order to run for Airtronics, you had to be really, really special. I mean, it was
even now they don't sponsor many people. Sanwa.
Well, Sanwa doesn't.
Right.
Sanwa never really has.
Okay.
But it's the same kind of thing. Like in the US, it was literally a handful of people. And Cliff says, "I think you should take a chance on this kid. He's a lot like me. He can run every single class that's out there in RC."
That's not everybody can do that.
Right. And he said, he just said he can run every single class and he's fast. And he goes, "I vouch for him, maybe just, can you hook them up with a couple, things? And that's when I started running Airtronics. So,
Really?
but
No.
Cliff's the one who got me sponsored by Airtronics. Cliff's the one who made the phone call, because at that time you really had to have an in somehow, some way with a company like that. And then Bobby Tom was the guy there, was the contact, and he was it was really cool to be sponsored by them. But for Cliff to say that, with like me standing there and him say, I vouch for him, he's really fast and he can drive every form of racing there is.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah. So when you ask where I did, was it doing everything? I was doing everything. If I could drive an RC car, I would do it.
Really? But your bread and butter was touring car. That's where you kind of was, major. I want to say that's where you was. I would know you from.
I was fast and on road.
Okay.
Whether it be, 93, I TQ'd the modified nationals in Florida ahead of Joel and Blackstock and all those guys in 10 scale. And I was the new kid on the block in modified, and everybody, I came out of the stock ranks and stuff like that. I actually made a jump from stock to modified instead of staying in stock classes when I was beating everybody, unlike some drivers these days who just keep going and racing stock over and over and over again because people are deciding that, hey, we're going to pay stock people.
I know. A commission off the motors that are $175.
We won't even go there on that. It's ridiculous.
I know. We're gonna go off tangent real quick. I believe that's how I believe stock is a great stepping stone for. I think 10 scale has it right. You do it in stock. Well, had it right. Do stock, win there. You go up to mod. It's almost a pathway to becoming a professional at some point. But stock just isn't stock in my brain anymore. Like, I wish 8 scale had something similar, like a class that you could put on, but it's like the amount of money that you're putting into stock nowadays, you might as well just it's probably cheaper to run mod, I would say. And it's definitely not a beginner friendly class for people, unfortunately. I don't think. I mean, it can be, but then you got somebody, look, I got this $175 motor and no slipper and this and all this type of stuff. You're like, man, it's expensive. I mean, just like 8 scale, it's expensive, but definitely not for beginners. And should be used as a stepping stone. It shouldn't be what you strive. I just don't feel it should be what you strive to attain to in RC. You know what I mean?
Well, some of these companies are spending lots of money on advertising of people who are winning stock races.
I know that. But it's such a big class and everybody loves it. So it has its niche.
What you're saying, nitro is the glory, e-buggy pays the bills.
Yeah.
Well, and modified is the glory and stock buggy pays the bills, maybe.
Yeah. What Rona says, 2-wheel drive pays for the skills or something. That's his one. Did he put that one? But it is amazing. I actually agree with you on that one.
I'll tell you this much, okay? Any good 2-wheel drive buggy racer, top of the line, A main, constantly top 10 driver can drive any car in RC. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
All right. We're going to go off on it. I do agree with you on that. I also think it's for 8 scale nitro cars. And why I say that, if you look at Ronafalk, Ungaro, I'll take those two for an example. They don't do very much 10 scale, but they're both European champions. And they both were like, and Ungaro almost won the worlds. Like, he gave Dakota Fenn a run for his money for a guy that does not even really race 10 scale. So I think you're right. I tell people all the time, if you're gonna practice with anything, if you're gonna do 10 scale, people's like, oh, I got a 4-wheeler. I'm like, get a 2-wheel drive car. It'll make you a better driver. Well, I got an e-buggy. Yes, I like e-buggy, but nitro is gonna make you faster. I think that's my personal opinion.
I disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine.
I disagree. I think you got to remember where most of these guys came from. Where did Mayfield? Where did Cavallari? Where did these guys come?
Electric.
10 scale 2-wheel drive.
10 scale 2-wheel drive.
These guys are the elite of the elites. Ungaro is just a great driver.
Okay.
Ronafalk, great driver. JQ sucks in 2-wheel, so don't tell me, that.
Yeah, I don't know about JQ's. We can't talk about.
I'm just saying, right. You're saying get 8 scale. JQ's good in 8 scale. JQ doesn't get the props that he should get. The guy The guy, hold on. Okay. The guy is very, very, very smart.
I
The guy
agree.
has good product. The guy designs stuff that's good. Okay.
Mhm,
Just like me,
mhm.
the guy's mouth gets him in trouble.
This is true, and well, being as we're on that subject, um, that what you're known for, and I like that though. I remember you told me a story about you came to a race and you said, "Okay, who's finishing second?" I love that shit. I wish we had that nowadays. I would be like, if I had a driver, that's what I would be telling him to do because we need it. I think we need that in RC.
Back in the day, we didn't hang out with each other.
Yeah.
Racers. You had different teams and you were on a different team and you did not like that other team.
Well, this
Now these guys are going out and they're having dinner and they're going out and they're attending each other's weddings and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're spending the weekends together out in the desert, stuff like that. No, that didn't happen.
The TLR AE beef was real back then, too.
Yeah.
And I want it to start again. I do. I think it is.
It's not starting.
I like it. Yeah, it is. It's one of my goals this year.
It might be your goal this year, but it won't start.
Unfortunately, but I think it should. And I'm not saying on a disrespectful level, but I think we do race, right? I forgot that we do race RC cars, and the point of winning RC cars is obviously to beat the person to become number one. I don't want to be. I mean, it's all nice to say good luck and all that type. But no, I want these guys are they're professionals. They're racing each other. When it comes to those guys' level, let's be honest. A difference between first and fifth is contingency money and what some money that they'll make. I know that means something, but they want to win. I think we need to bring back. I think we need just more competitiveness. Like you said, not everybody hanging out, and we can still be respectful and friendly and all that type of stuff. But this is racing, and we're here to race, and we do that on the track.
There are some racers out. Let me explain something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You just hit the nail on the head. The difference between first and fifth for some people is contingency money.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people that finish fifth that are like, okay, I made money this weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's people that finish second that are pissed off because they didn't win.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the same person that got pissed off because they didn't win takes less of a paycheck to run for a more competitive company.
Mm-hmm.
The person who got fifth gets the contingency money is now running for companies that are not they could get a deal with another company, but they wouldn't get a paycheck, but now they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are you racing for a paycheck? Or are you racing because you're passionate about winning?
This is true. I'll never forget. I got scolded by Ronald Falk's father for this. This was before I kind of got to know them, and somebody said, "Oh, Ronald Falk finished fourth at Neo or something." I can't remember. And I was like, "Yeah," and he was upset. He was upset about it, and the guy was like, "What is he complaining about?" He finished third. He got on the podium, and I was like, "Well, I think it's about money. I think a big thing is about money." And Pierre came on there and said, "It's not about money. We want to win. That's
Right.
what we want to do. We want to win. The money can come later. I don't care about that. We want to win."
Money comes with winning.
Yeah, and that changed my
in this industry. What have you done for me lately is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
When contracts come around.
Yes.
Okay. But you got to also remember that in this industry, there's a 12-year-old kid that's biting at your heels to get that job that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you weigh those out? Do you weigh these out that you actually spend the time at the track and you go racing and you go practicing and you hone your skill? Okay. And I mean, all these other people, yeah, the money comes and the money, sometimes it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't want to, I'm trying not to mention names.
Right. I get you.
Because I really don't.
I know. You don't have to throw people under the bus.
Well,
That's fine.
It's giving people compliments.
Right.
And things like that. Because, I mean, to tell you the truth, I mean, I think that Dakota could have made way more money this year
Mhm.
if he was just into it for the money.
Right. Okay, I get it.
His program is so good that he wants to stay where he is at because he knows he can win with his program.
Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Same thing with Mayfield.
Mhm.
Okay. Mayfield could go anywhere
Mhm.
and probably write a paycheck for himself anywhere. Okay. But he is so loyal to Jason at JC. He's loyal to Mugen.
Mhm.
Okay. It's like you got to respect, people like that.
Yeah, if you
But,
really look at
but then you
engines he switched a lot, but if you look at chassis and tires, Mayfield has been pretty steady. AE, well, Thunder Tiger, I think, then AE for many years. Then he did TLR. Then when Drake, obviously what happened with Drake. Now it's been with Mugen since what, 17, and probably the most successful years of his 8-scale career.
But I'll tell you this, okay? It's not about money with him. He wants to win.
Of course, I know that. He is one of those guys, like you said, who will run for less money for a superior product.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
there's a handful of those out there, but
mhm,
everybody else is I was that way.
mhm.
I mean, I left Associated because I didn't feel I was getting paid, what I should have got paid. But you know what? I was getting overpaid.
I know how much he was getting paid at Associated because I listened to that interview.
I was getting overpaid,
Mhm.
okay, because I didn't deserve that much money.
Can we say how much estimate was? Because I heard on the interview.
No,
Okay,
I'm not throwing around numbers,
right.
but there are people out there that are like, "Oh, I'm worth more than this," or "I'm worth that," or "I'm worth this." You're only worth what people want to pay you.
This is true, and you're only worth you're only as good as your last race. Like, you know what I mean? If people don't, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and that's just how it is. You're a professional racer. It was worse back in the day. I remember Greg telling me a story back when on the Kyosho team. If you didn't make an A main at one of those national events, you got put on the B team. Like if you was on the A team travel team and you didn't make the A main and this is back when they only had 10 people in mains. If you didn't make that, you got bumped on to the B team spot.
I think he was exaggerating. I know that there was a time where if you didn't make the A, they didn't pay your travel.
Okay, that that would be expensive too.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's how competitive it was, though. I mean, and Kyosho was on top. There was nothing touching Kyosho in their glory years. Yugen was just about scratching. Yugen was the only competition at one time. Thunder
Yeah.
Tiger.
But I mean,
Um,
it's,
yeah.
yeah. So
So let's talk about you are known for being very outspoken. You've calmed down a lot. Um, you you and JQ what was you always outspoken like this? Or I always wanted to ask this, was you always outspoken, or was this a persona that you made? A character like this was this your personal a persona that you made and just that was your race persona, or was this really you? Okay,
I
so
was
you're
always, I was always a spoiled brat,
okay,
and when I didn't get my way, I would piss and moan and be upset about it. And I wasn't a silver spoon kid,
right. But I know what you mean.
but somehow I got everything I ever wanted. And it was by bitching and complaining enough and doing this. And, they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's not
Mhm,
true. Um, there has been some rough times and stuff like that. But yeah, I have a very bad attitude.
mhm,
I really do. I mean, I still have a very short fuse.
mhm.
And when people know the right button to push, it really fires me up.
What
Uh,
was one of the what would fire you up at a race that would back in the day? Like something that somebody would do.
anything.
Really? You was just that high strong, man.
Oh
You
yeah.
wanted to win. You wanted to win.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
it was.
I wanted to win, but I mean, I mean, it's just, I don't know. You ask these kind of questions, and I can't really
Right,
pinpoint what it is.
right.
It's just, I was a dick
Okay.
there. Okay. I mean, I really was. I was a horrible teammate.
Was you just addicted to racers, or was you like, how about people that were new into RC? Just
I didn't care about them.
all right, yeah.
This honest, you're asking me to be
Right, no,
honest.
no, I get that. I get that. I applaud your honesty. I kind of understand where you're at. Your focus was on
Difference
this.
now. The difference now is I would miss a qualifier to help somebody out that needed help.
Right. I get that.
I would tell them, if your car's on fire, sorry, dude, go put some water on it or something.
But I don't see nothing wrong with that attitude. That's not your fault that his car is on fire, especially at the level that you're at that time.
But I'm just trying to say that, I mean, this is the difference now. And I think a lot of it came with maturity, and a lot of it came with failure.
Okay.
In order to be successful in life, you have to fail. Okay.
What was one of your biggest failures then during that period? Do you think that if you could just go back and okay, and why was that?
Because I was too big for my britches.
And I believe you said you did burn bridges there, and it's still still burnt bridges to this day. Do you think you'll ever
still smoldering?
Okay. You think you could ever get back? No, was that because you
I don't, you know what? It is what it is. The only thing I would like is to be real and have a real good conversation with Cliff again.
I can tell that you have a lot of respect for him.
That's the only person that I honestly would like to just have an honest, straight up, let's talk. What screwed what over? What made you feel hurt? What made me feel hurt about the whole situation? I mean, the only person who I really felt like I really failed was Cliff. You know, Sean Cochran, who's part of the Reedy team. I mean, he's always been a good friend and stuff like that. But I mean, he saw the writing on the wall when I was leaving and all this other stuff. It just wasn't there. Right. You know, the stuff I needed to change and stuff. But I mean, for Richard, at the time that I was going through like those issues and stuff at Associated, Richard said, just bite your tongue. Just go on with it. He goes, just let it all pass. And I was the kind of person that I didn't think through things. I made a lot of errors by not thinking, and made a lot of stupid decisions by not thinking it through. But I mean, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in right now. Like life, when you make decisions, every morning you get up out of bed, you have to make a decision. Okay. What am I going to wear today? Am I going to go here or am I going to go there? So there's decisions that lead you down this path. And when you make these decisions, you have to accept them and keep moving forward. And when you start trying to backtrack and go back and do other things, you start making even bigger mistakes.
Yeah. You cannot fix what happened in the past, but you can prevent it from happening in the future and in the present.
But there's always, I still don't feel there's been closure. You know, working with Associated for the 5 years that I was there. Okay. And working closely with some of the people there. I really don't feel like it's like a relationship.
Right. I get it.
And I mean, you need closure. And I mean, I don't think
you get it.
What's that?
I hope you get it. And it's probably going to be as simple as you going up to Cliff and saying, hey man, I'm sorry.
No, because I only see Cliff where there's multiple people around and stuff like that. And it needs to be one of those where, you know, it's almost needs to be like, you know, yeah, one of those kind of things. But you know, we're a lot older now. I mean, we're both older. I mean, Cliff gave me, I don't know if you know this, but so in 1995, Cliff was 37 years old. I'm aging him right now, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this. He's 12 years older than I am.
Oh, he looks good for his age, man.
Yeah. He does. But so he's 12 years older than I am. I was 25. He was 37. He made the A at the Worlds. I walked up to him and I said, well, I got 12 more good years in me then.
Wow.
Right. You know, because he was the guy that I looked, you know, he was the guy that I looked up to at the time.
Yeah.
And I left Associate in 2006 when we had all that, you know, the fireworks that were going on there. And I decided I was too big for my britches and I'm going to go run for X-Ray. Okay. In 2007, when I was 37 years old, I won every single on-road national that year.
Really?
Nitro, carpet, asphalt, all U.S. national champion that year at 37. Okay. And I remember thinking this when I won the first one, I go, there you go. I knew that at 37, I would still be good because Cliff made the A at 37.
Wow. So that breakup of AE was really bad then. Like
it
really
was,
bad.
You know, it was I don't want to say that reading Brock's exit interview or whatever, a lot of it sounds familiar.
You know what, man? When I read that, what he wrote, it sounds exactly like what Cav was kind of saying. Like, remember when he got suspended that time, and then
well, no, it a lot of it of the you know, they don't want to let you out of your contract and this and that and all this other stuff, but
yeah, because you had to buy out of your contract, right? From
I did not. I did not.
Okay.
I stood up for myself.
All right, because you had a 5-year contract, and
I had a very long contract.
Yeah.
Okay. And they wanted me to buy 1 year out. And they said, if you buy 1 year out, and then it got knocked down to 6 months. Then it got knocked down to just give us like $5 so we win kind of thing. Right. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay you.
Wow. You are very much like JQ.
But I pretty much said, I pretty much said this, okay, which I think is one of the biggest things that burned them is I'm under contract with them, okay? And I pretty much said, I don't want to race for you anymore, okay? But if you make me, you know, adhere to my contract and fulfill it, I'm just going to be useless at races. That's pretty much what I told them.
They just didn't want that. They knew that would have just like taking you to races would have just been a waste. And if they didn't take you, it would have looked bad on them too.
Wow, well, I had such a bad attitude. I mean, I broke my hand in a race because I was passion, turned around, hit the back of the driver's stand. Wasn't throwing a fit, just got upset with myself that I broke my car. Turned around. How many times you see it? I see people kick the driver's stand and don't break their feet.
Yep.
You know, I see people, you know, do things. I've seen people, never done this, seen people throw radios. Nothing happens to them. Not a, you know, I've seen it happen though.
You know what? I think if you wasn't as aggressive and didn't have the attitude that you had, you wouldn't have been as successful as you are. So while
you know, a lot of people said that, but I don't know. I don't know.
Because
everybody has their own attitude and everybody has their, you know, there are people that are the nicest people in the world, but when they stand up on the driver's stand, they'll you know, drive through their mother.
This is true. And then you heard stuff coming out of their mouth you never thought you would hear.
Oh my gosh. There are people that are, I'm not once again, not saying any names, but oh my God, if people on the internet, okay, could hear some of these people that they idolize on the driver's stand. Like some of the thing that comes out of their mouth that nitro cars you don't hear on live RC because all you hear is the nitro engines and stuff. You would be like, this should be NC-17.
I know. I've watched Joseph. I've heard Joseph freak out on the mics now. We should mic him up one day. That'd be awesome. I think it'd be cool. I think honestly, man, you can't change what happened. You see, I've met you. You've been always, every time I've met you at a race, you've been jovial. You've been, you know, I joke around with you, and I like that. So obviously, you've learned from that. but that's what made you. Yes, you might have done dick things and dick things or whatever, but you know what? That is part of the legend that became Barry Baker, the fabulous one. You know, so I know maybe you don't. You look back and you're like, oh, I was so childish and dumb, and I look back at
I was
things like that.
sure.
Yeah, you exactly. But you
But I
made
mean, we're playing with toys. I don't care what anybody says.
I don't like to say that, but I get it.
True.
It's to an extent at your level, it's not toys though.
No. They're very technologically
Advanced toys.
enhanced and very, high tech, vehicles. But when it comes down to it in the world, it's still a toy.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to ignore that one, Barry, because I don't think it's a toy. We call it scale motorsports, sir. No, I'm only joking.
No, I
Yeah.
believe me. I mean, this is great. It's a hobby.
Yes,
It
but
is
it's also a sport.
hobby.
It's a sport when it gets to a certain level.
When
I
it
would
gets
say.
to a certain level, yes, it is
Yeah.
a sport. But how many people in this world can call it
A very minute part. A very minute. There are many people that think they are, but
right?
there's a very minute people that get paid to do this. It's really it's just a very hard thing to become a professional RC car driver. Just not, but I mean just racing, nothing else. It's very hard to do. And that's why it's only a handful of people that make decent money doing it. So you're at AE. I remember you being on the TC3 box. I was listening to you on this other podcast, and you didn't like the TC3 on the rear end. It was so interesting to hear you talk about that stuff, how little lock nuts fix the rear end from every time you would hit, you would get toe in and all that stuff. But you really did you not really like the platform, or what it was shaft driven, so you had the torquester. I heard about how you had to turn to the right a little bit, so when you accelerated off from your start, you would go straight because of the shaft driven cars. And I never even thought about all of that. It was like it's similar to boats. RC boats are the same. Yeah, man, you just I just like just amazing. Like I just can't really believe that's what I want to know. How big was touring car at its height? Was it bigger than off-road at its highest height?
No,
No, seriously.
no. It was
Really
big. It was big. I don't think on road will ever be as
bigger than
big.
off-road?
No,
No, I don't
exactly.
think so either. It's also like
It's prestigious. It's like F1.
mhm.
Okay, but in F1, how many teams are really prestigious?
Yeah. But and also I think like for instance on the 8 scale side of on-road, you got like Kalari that's won it 9 times in a row, and you don't have that in the off-road. So, off-road 8 scale nitro side. There's only been 1 2 time in there. There's never been a back-to-back. So for me, that's probably one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious title to win because it's hard to win.
What, A scale off road?
Yeah.
I think A scale off road definitely is prestigious, but I also think that there's multiple things. Driver doesn't always win.
Right. It's luck too. Luck.
I mean, you got to have a lot of luck.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things. I mean, the year, I hate to say this, Dagani.
Yes, everybody says it.
Okay. But I mean, Richard, misses pit stops or whatever, and
Dad broke his pipe.
pipe, the stinger or whatever, the nipple on it, whatever breaks off and things like that. I mean, stuff that never happened.
Mhm.
And who ends up winning? Dagani, and he's still making a living off of it.
No, he ain't making a living, but
You know what I'm saying, though. He's still somewhat, he's still Mr. Irrelevant, but still.
Yeah. He only likes to go into races when we all go because he says it reminds him of being in the pits back in the day. So much fun. But I just enjoy you guys' stories too. So we can't tell them all on this podcast, but
you can go to real racing, right? I mean, you go to NASCAR. What do you want to hear? You want to hear, stories from Richard Petty, and you want to hear stories, from all these other guys, Junior that, is retired now, and all the retired guys. You want to hear those stories because that's what built the foundation. 20 years from now, you're not going to remember that kind of. I mean, I know stories I hear stories from Joel from before when I used to, before I even started racing, and from Howard about, when they used to race, at Briggs Museum, in the parking lot. And they used to have to, so you used to have to drive, turn marshal, and then count.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So you had to have a clipboard and you'd have to count. And they didn't have a timer. Like at the end of 8 minutes, they yelled, stop. So you didn't finish the lap you were on. You went 33 laps and they would have like marked boards throughout the whole track. And you would count, okay, I went 33 laps and 7 boards.
No way.
I went 33 laps and 11 boards.
Wow.
Okay. And that's what they used to have to do. But you had a little clicker, but that was part of your racing.
Mm-hmm.
Now people can't even go out and marshal.
I know. It was really bad this week at SIC. They had to call a lot for marshals, and it's just ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I am 100%, I take 100% responsibility and everything for this, but I mean, I yell at turn marshals. I've yelled at turn marshals. I've been known for yelling at turn marshals.
I would, I'm sure you did.
But the same mistakes that turn marshal made to my car,
Mm-hmm.
I've made mistakes to other cars, and I feel so bad doing it.
Yeah.
And then I think, man, that guy didn't yell at me.
Yeah.
Right? Why did I yell at the person that did it to me? Did I learn from it? I don't know.
I think you've learned from it because, I mean, when I see you at races, you're enjoying yourself. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
You're not racing.
I enjoy the position I'm in now.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is by far, like I said, I respect Cliff a lot, and I respect, the company of Associated, I think was, don't get me wrong, they're great, they're a great company, and their direction that they're going, and everything is fine with, being owned by Thunder Tiger. But when Thunder Tiger purchased Associated changed.
Well, I mean, people can say the same thing about Horizon and TLR.
Well, but I knew Junior and them, and I raced for them back in the day. And yeah, Pops Losi, they were passionate. And I mean, yeah, it's the truth. But It became, on both sides, it became corporate. It didn't become a racing scene anymore. Okay. But being on both corporate sides, okay, I can tell you right now that my racing program and the things that I am involved with and the people that I deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, and the team environment that I am in right now is by far the best I've ever been in my life of RC.
And you know what? Barry, I think that started in 2019. Because I'll be honest with you, I think TLR is just rebounding from when they fired or let go Drake in 2016. Kevin Gahan was there for a while, and it was like we didn't know, it was like a point we didn't know what Lucy was going to do this way. And I have to give a lot of props. I do. I give a lot of props to Thomas Tran and the little bit of time he's been there. But for me, I see TL like I have not. When I saw TLR at the 2019, no, was it 2020 this year? Sorry, 2020 Nationals, Nationals DNC, and the big. Like, I mean, I remember I went to the
involved then.
I know. No, in 2020 was he? This year he was. Okay. Well, I'm just saying. I've seen. Let
me tell you. Okay,
he's been there a year, hasn't he?
No.
Okay, so he wasn't involved in 2020.
He literally started right after.
Okay. All right. So I don't know who was in charge then, but I remember when I went to my first DNC, I didn't see hardly any TLR guys. A TLR camp or anything. Then I went to like PNB. I didn't see nothing. I started in 2018 when the X was coming out. I saw at the Nationals, and then I started like I think for me when I on an 8 scale tip because I don't really follow 10 scale that much. And my buddy and I talk about this a lot. Anthony Westergaard started running the car about 2 years ago, and that's kind of. I'm not saying he did it, but that's kind of when I started seeing things going. And then I started seeing more. And I think right now TLR is in a very good spot. And I've seen so Tran came on after DNC 2020. But now I can see his influence. We have team managers rolled out.
Oh yeah.
All this type of stuff. And this is stuff I didn't even know before. I see so many people posting about TLR and all this type of stuff that have joined the team. I'm actually going to make a video of team rankings, and like TLR is in my top 3. And I actually agree with you. When I walked into that pits in 2020 and saw just everybody, like, it was humongous, it was big. I used the wrench in Dakota's car, and I'm walking around, everybody was just there. And I was like, oh wow, TLR is definitely, and that's what I said to myself, TLR is not out of racing. They are here and they're going to be big. And I think 21 is going to be, it's going to be a good battle. I think you guys got two great top drivers in Cav and Fend. You have a plethora of extremely good and fast, talented young drivers in waiting, like, in 10 scale and 8 scale.
Waiting.
Huh?
I don't think they're in
Oh,
waiting.
they ain't waiting. Good. They shouldn't be waiting, but you just should be coming for these guys.
Did you see Tom Rennerneck at
all of that? I saw it.
Okay.
And I am so hopeful.
Did you see what Mason did last weekend?
I was talking to his dad.
Okay.
Talking to his dad. So
I think they're learning how to win. There's a difference. You need to know how to win in RC.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go to a race and say, gosh, I hope I finish top 3.
No, you have to want to win.
I hope I win. No, you got to know that you can win in order to win.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to be handed to you. When people say, oh, they were in the right position, when this person crashed. No, they were in the right position because they knew what they needed to do to win the race.
I agree. And confidence, man. If you don't have that confidence, these guys, like, I'll tell you, one of the drivers that surprises me with his confidence is Runafuck. He's super confident, and
he's European.
Right? Yeah, but he's super confident, and I'm like, man, it shows, man. He's one of the best in the world, man. He's a fully accomplished driver, world champion, 2-time European champion, all that type of stuff. You can't take it, and he's only 24.
Yeah.
So,
you have to know that you can win.
Mm-hmm. I think
you win races.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So, you retired a few times. Well, you tried to retire once in X-ray. I was reading in an interview, but you officially retired in 2017. And from racing,
that was a forced retirement, but
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, why did that happen? Was it just you just was out of it, or just going in a different direction in life?
I didn't want to tell everybody the reasoning why I got out of racing in 2017. The other stuff was always, I'm quitting racing. I'm done. But I never really said anything, right? And then I decided, okay, I'm going to retire. And I'm still retired. I don't care what anybody says. I am retired from professional racing.
Okay.
I am not going to go to a world championship and race a world championship. I'm going to go and I'm going to win a world championship as Dakota's mechanic.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do.
I applaud you. Do you feel?
Okay. I am not going to go to a national and race a national anymore. A 40 plus, maybe. Mm-hmm. Do I think 40 plus needs to be raised up because I think that there's too much? Yeah, because I feel I'm an intermediate driver. Mm-hmm. Everybody says, oh, you're pro. No, I'm about equal to an intermediate driver these days. I don't go out there. I don't do the running and the racing, and I'm not of that speed anymore. I can throw in a flyer lap here or there, but I'm definitely not consistent. I'm that intermediate expert in between when it comes to off-road. Right. I still feel I could win if I go to an on-road race and you give me a week's worth of practice.
Really?
I feel if I could get to a race and you give me a week's worth of running, I would be there in contention at the end of the race.
Did you ever run nitro 8 scale on road in your career?
Yep. Yeah, I ran nitro 8 scale, ran 5th scale, ran it all. Ran world championships and all of them.
5th scale, I think really, I didn't know that. So I was reading. You said you was 3 times runner up at the Worlds. Which 3 Worlds was that? The one in South Africa, and
the runner ups.
Yeah,
I finished second at both worlds. In 1996, we had at Revelation Raceway.
Mhm.
used to be an on-road track before it was off-road.
Right.
Okay. They had the Worlds there in 1996.
Mhm.
Was it 96? Yeah, 1996. And I finished second in both 12 scale and 10 scale. 12 scale to Masami, 10 scale to Mike Swagger. Both
Right.
classes there.
Yeah.
Runner up. Yeah.
And then in South Africa in
South
2002.
Africa, 42 seconds away from a win and stripped of spur gear.
Ooh.
Yep.
So do you feel you've won so many national titles, you've been at the peak of your career? Does it bother you that you never won a Worlds?
With how dominant I was in South Africa, yes. I mean, it was from the very first practice on the track, I was the fastest car.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen too often
Right.
at an RC race. Usually you have somebody that builds up and gets faster and faster and faster, and people who start out like blazing, fast, and then they peter out. I was faster and faster and faster. There was only one other race that ever happened to, and that was the Japanese Nationals in 98 or 99 at Yatabe Arena. I was fastest qualify. I've TQ'd the first round, reset TQ second round, reset TQ third round, reset TQ fourth round, and run all 3 A mains at Masami's home track.
Wow.
So that was the only other time that it's been that dominant of a race. And I felt the same way in South Africa, because in South Africa, there was, at the Worlds, they take 4 out of 5 qualifiers. So if you screw up twice, you're done. Right? And after the 4th round, I couldn't be beat for TQ. And there was another round going into the 5th round. No matter what happened in the 5th round, I could not lose TQ.
Right.
How many times can somebody say that after 4 rounds?
Not many. Wow. Do you think, I'm going to ask you a question, because we're talking about Worlds. Do you think, like, and all 3 of these guys have a 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive Worlds. Do you think, out of Cav, Mayfield, and Tebow, the first 2, I think Cav's the most decorated out of those guys. He's won the most races. But do you think it's a serious competition between those guys? If they don't win, one of them guys don't win an 8-scale Worlds, is it going to be disappointing? You think? They have multiple championships between them, multiple Reedy wins, all this type of stuff, but neither of those 3 guys have a 8-scale world championship yet. Been very close.
That's a question to ask them.
Yeah, I would have to. I mean, Mayfield said it in an interview once that the Worlds don't define his career. And
No.
I get that. I get that. It doesn't. It does not.
Race. It's
Yeah.
Why do we not have
A series?
World Series?
You know what?
But
I wish we did.
Because we've proven this at races, okay? That at one race, now there's probably 6 or 7, but at one point there were 20 different guys that could win that race. There were 10 guys that were not going to be in the A main that should have been in the A main that could have won the race. Okay, at one race. But when you get an event that's 6, 7, 8 races long, okay, then you get your true champion.
I agree with you.
Okay,
I agree with you.
Okay, but it can't be the way RC Pro Series or whatever the
RCGP
series, RCGP. It can't be like that. They made that a spectacle. That's more of, in my eyes, it's a circus.
Well,
there is
I can understand where you see that. I can understand where you see that.
No reason why that pro class should run as much as they do. Okay, you almost.
No, my camera keeps shutting off.
It's all good, but I'm just saying that they get so much track time, and it's like it's the same people racing each other, and the same people are going to win. You have your top 3 guys, and then you have the also rans.
Well, that's because obviously, I mean, I would love to see all the top guys, not necessarily in RCGP, but in a series.
But
It doesn't
that'll never happen.
no, because
That'll
there's too much racing going on.
Well, and it'll never happen in remote in RC. It just won't happen. That IFMAR, as long as IFMAR is involved, it will be in every other year, one single event at a certain venue. Now, don't get me started on venues, because I don't think it should be at a permanent venue. I think
Okay.
that they should have a venue that's specially built for world championships.
I actually would agree with you there. I 100% agree with you there. I would like to see, mind you, I like the fact that it goes to different countries, but I think that's the fairest way.
Yeah.
And that way you also get a guaranteed race, because I would put it under a roof. I wouldn't say put it in a building, but I will put it under a roof.
Should
You
you
know?
get a week's worth of practice? No.
No.
2 runs. Let's start racing.
Yeah, because it's expensive, man. And I
2
think
runs. 2 runs. Let's start racing. This is the World Championships.
Yeah.
Who's the best prepared? Who's the best driver?
Do you think the worlds should be just for professional drivers, or should it include everybody?
I think it should be people who qualify, not people who can pay their way in.
I agree there. I agree there.
There needs to be, I think there needs to be, once again, qualifications to go to national championships.
Mhm.
I think from the nationals, you need to qualify to go to the worlds. There shouldn't be a waiting list
Mhm.
to fill out these spots.
I agree.
Okay. There shouldn't be a waiting list. There should be here's who's in the race. If you don't make it, then we have 30 drivers, because you're still going to have the best 30 drivers there,
Mhm.
or the best 50 drivers. All those other drivers, you tell me of anybody that's been of any relevance that has got in, that has paid their way into the race themselves, right? That have not qualified to get into a Worlds.
Well, they did have in 2016, they had the 8-scale worlds where they had like a race, like, because they didn't fill it
Race into the Worlds, right?
right. Yeah. They had to race into the worlds. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. And who are the drivers that made it in?
I think Truey made it. I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember. I have to,
And why did Truey make it in?
because Truey is good.
Why did he not qualify?
I don't know. I don't know if he didn't. I don't know. Good question. Maybe he had a bad nationals.
Well, why do you get to race the Worlds if you don't qualify?
This is true. This is very true. I don't know. You have a point. You have a point. But we'll never go back there, because you know why? Because number one, we kind of talked about this before, is that Raw's kind of like a headless leadership. Like Raw doesn't do anything. Let's be honest. I know there's good people trying to do things in Raw, but I believe the people in Raw have to get paid. Like we said, effort gets paid, and you can pay somebody. Time costs money. And I am all for having Raw involved. I love the Nationals. I think we should have regional
What are
races.
the biggest races in the United States?
The biggest race,
Non-roar events.
there's a DNC.
Non-roar events.
It's not a Raw event.
Right.
DNC.
That's what I said. Non-roar event.
Oh, DNC is a non-Raw event.
Right. Psycho Nitro Blast.
Non-Raw event. Every race outside, besides the Nationals, is a non-Raw event, because that's the only race they do.
Yeah.
But they used to have regionals.
The funny thing is, you don't even hear we're using Raw rules, because nobody uses Raw rules.
Right.
They
And
use IFMAR rules, because you have international drivers.
Oh, for the Nationals, you mean? Or
for everything. Yeah. Everything but the US Nationals. Like all the big races, they have the international rules of stuff.
Okay.
Like for fuel and all this other stuff. I mean, it's weight, things like that. I mean, pre-teching. This is all stuff they do at EFRA and at world events.
They do it at the Nationals too.
Well, now they do.
Yeah.
They used to never do that.
Okay. The one Nationals that you've been to way more, but the one Nationals I went to, they were doing it, and they did it. And the problem was that people didn't know about teching and all that stuff.
Right.
Because we don't do it on a regional level. And that also goes for the people that do it. If you get them, things get consistent if you do it a long time. But I love the Nationals, but I would love to see some regional racing where you qualify to go to the Nationals, and that's how it is in Europe. I mean, we're talking about different countries, but you know what I mean? You qualify for your country's national, and you go to the Euros, or you go to the worlds, I think, because the worlds is based off your country too in Europe, like your nationals of your country, I believe.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
This is probably going to fire up a lot of people, and I think it's hilarious. But okay, do you think gyros should be legal?
No.
Okay.
I want to know if they make a difference.
And why is exponential legal in a radio?
I was just about to say that. You know what? These non-prep drag guys are setting up their radios and to launch about, this non-prep drag racing that's taken off now.
That is the biggest, stupidest, worst name for a class in the nation. It's the most prep drag racing is what it should be called.
Well, it's about the surface of the ground. It's supposed to be not prepped at all. So that's why it's called no prep.
That's fine. It's not prepped, but they're prepping their tires and everything else.
Well, they run into that rule of how you're going to stop saucing. I just let everybody sauce. That's just the easiest way to do it. I forgot what I was on. What was we talking about? I forgot. What was the question you asked me?
Gyros Expo. And you went into non-prep, set the radios up.
Right, but they use their radios to set it up so that car stays straight and doesn't deliver the power. And I know you can play with radio settings to do things for your throttle curve and all that type of stuff too.
Yeah.
So is that a form of a gyro too? I don't know. It's a thin line right there. You know what I mean?
It's an electronic adjustment, and that's all a gyro is.
But I think the gyro is kind of like it's supposed to. I actually think a gyro will work against a really good professional driver.
Yeah, I do too. But all these things about, I don't think that. I think if you put a gyro in a car, somebody said they put gyros in the car and it just makes the car very easy to drive. Well, that's fine.
Well, I think when you think of how a pro drives and he wants to send the car the opposite direction that it's supposed to go to set it up for something else, I think the gyro will be counterintuitive to that. But I don't know. I've never driven with a gyro. I would really like somebody that can drive.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I was just asking you because it gets into, radio adjustments, and look, all these radios have so many adjustments on them now, and you can do, pretty much anything with them. So
I agree because I heard some word throttle inputs from people, and I'm like, how are you able to do that? Minute throttle inputs, and I'm like, I can't believe your fingers going that fast, and that it's just really hard. But then they could just be talented. So now let's talk about Dakota because you heard this is your guy.
2 hours.
I like him.
About Dakota.
We said an hour, and I knew it. I said when I watched that video, this is gonna be a long one, but that's all right.
We'll continue some other time, but we can talk, but we can do a 2-part podcast. I don't care.
No, I'm gonna have you on for a live one time too, but let's wrap it up. I know you like Dakota. I like him too. What is it that you see in Dakota that you probably don't see in some of these other guys?
Well, I see it in the other guys. It's just the opportunity to work with somebody like Dakota came around, and it was. He's just. I knew him before, but now I really know him, and just him and Chloe are just. Outstanding people. They're great human beings, and Dakota he's got the mindset that makes him who he is. He's the guy who is the hi, how you doing, nicest person you'll ever see in the pits, and when you get onto the stand, he will stab you. He's got that mentality of, he's got the killer, I want to win.
I would never think he had it because I've never spoken to him. He's very quiet. I'd never seen any emotion from him.
He is very quiet, and even on the microphone, I don't know. 2 years ago, DNC, he was in the B main, and we got him into the A, and we take off of the A, and we made some changes before the main and everything, and some big changes. Took a swing at the car coming from 15th on the grid. He barely bumped in. I think he made the transfer spot by like 0.6 of a second and then got into 15th. and ended up driving up into second. But after the first lap, like in Truggy that year, he got absolutely qualloped on the first lap and was dead last. So the next day, Buggy comes around and he gets flipped on the first lap, and his attitude on the microphone was, "Oh, great, I'm in last again."
How old is he?
23.
He's so young, man. He's got
Yeah.
such a bright future ahead of him.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's just
Young.
got the right mental attitude. He's been on his own for a while. Been married for multiple years now with Chloe. So, I mean, they have a life, and I
Yeah.
mean, they have their house and they have their dogs, and they have their motorcycles, and they go and they do their stuff, and I mean, they have a life.
Mhm.
And he's got a life. He had to grow up quick.
Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
And he's been on the scene since what, like 11 or something like that?
He's been
Really?
racing for TLR since like age 9.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like Lewis Hamilton, like, was with McLaren forever.
But he's, but that mental attitude that he's got, and just the willingness to, I mean, we'll talk on the phone when he's like at PMB and he's all, "Dude, I'm, this and that." And I go, "Just try this,
Mhm.
just go out there and try it." And, the whole time working with him, I had to earn his respect,
Mhm.
because he had to realize that I understood what I was talking about,
Mhm.
and that what I saw, and we would discuss things. And ultimately, it's his decision, right?
Mhm.
But before the main at DNC this year, I looked at him, I said, "Do you trust me?" And he said, "Yes." And I wholesale changed his car right before the main.
Excuse me. And he finished 3rd, right?
Well, he was in contention for like second the whole time. But I
Mhm.
mean, this was after qualifying. He TQ'd Buggy or E-Buggy, TQ'd Truggy, had the great race with Mayfield for the whole main, and Truggy ended up finishing second. E-Buggy got absolutely annihilated by Ongaro on like the second lap. And how do you come back in that field in that race? But after the warm up, he just looked at me, goes, I don't think I could finish top 10 with my car right now.
Wow.
And that was after the warm up, because the track had changed so much. And I said, "Do you trust me?" And he says, "Absolutely." And I wholesaled his car. And after the race, he goes, "That's the best my car's worked in ever." So,
Really?
that is just one where it's like, okay, so now we start with that at PNB. And he
Mhm.
goes out in PNB and he wins Truggy and he TQs Buggy again. Now he TQs Nitro Buggy because of the changes that we've made. Okay. And then he has the flame outs or whatever. But then, he goes to, what's the next race? The one that was outdoor that
Wicked
Cavalieri,
Weekend.
that
Wicked Weekend. He had a
Wicked,
good run there.
and he was awesome there that weekend. And one little mistake, he went out on the wrong tires in the main, and Cavalieri went out on bar tires and ends up, beating him because his bar tires lasted, because
Mhm.
but Dakota, the speed that he had there in his car, there. And this is all, and we talk, people don't know. I'm not there, but I'm
Mhm.
there.
Right, I know what you mean.
We're talking between every single round of qualifying. We're discussing things. Yeah, he's making changes and everything, but we're discussing everything.
Mhm.
And we talk at the end of practice. Okay, how's this? How's that? Talk before the main. Okay, make sure that you Loctite this and you do this and you do that, because just because I'm not there doesn't mean the same stuff that I would be doing isn't being done to the car. But now that he's seen, like he messages me and he says, "Are you going to have time?" Because he knows I'm so busy with work. He
Mhm.
goes, "Are you going to have time to build cars, for DNC?" He goes, "It's not that I can't do it." He goes, "I just know how meticulous you are and that my cars will be perfect."
Hmm.
And I've spent 3 days on 2 cars.
Yeah, when I contacted you, was building his car,
Yeah.
and you just finished it up today. So
Yeah,
that's
they're sitting, I mean, they're sitting right next to me, I mean, ready to go.
What do you think about that incident at CRRC at the 10 scale?
I wasn't there, so I don't
Right.
know. I just talked to Dakota, and I mean, Dakota was like, oh, he turned left. Like I wasn't even, there. He goes, I just pulled up beside him down the straightaway. I had the inside line. I mean, they're both racing really hard. The respect I didn't see is that, Spencer, they're racing side by side, and that happened. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot, I think Dakota would have waited and just continued the race together with him. And Spencer just took off and just kept running. So, I mean, that just showed. I mean, there were a lot of things that I didn't like about that race, but I mean, I watched qualifying, and there was one time where, Dakota crashed and came up on somebody, and that person kept making little bobbles in front of them. And I mean, Dakota was a straightaway down to them after making a mistake and falling back, caught them, and kept lifting and backing off every time this person would make a mistake. When that person, when they made the mistake, should have just let Dakota go. But instead, Dakota didn't run through them or anything because they were on a TQ run.
Right.
And I think, he shows all this respect and sometimes doesn't get any respect back. But I think the respect between him and Mayfield are really good right now. They race each other really good. I don't know if you saw the racing, you saw it from DNC. You saw it from Psycho Nitro Blast. They can run side by side with each other and nothing ever happens. And there's respect from other people, out there. There's a respect for, Cav and him can run side by side at Wicked Weekend and no issues.
Would you tell, like my instance, like with
I like Spencer. Don't get me wrong.
Right, I get you wrong, but
I like Spencer. But I think there's times where you need to just say, okay, let's race each other, because the next time, if the shoe's on the other foot, he's going to go off the handle. So,
right. I would, if I would be like, hey, Dakota, stop being so nice. If you're going to have to give somebody a wheel, and once they do, they'll leave you alone.
Ask Dakota for the text I sent him. I'm
sure you did suggest that.
Well, there's been other things that have been said, sure. But
how do you feel about I'm all happy for Cav getting on TLR. I think he's going to do good things this year. Are you looking forward to having him partner up? Do you think well, I know you're a team fan, you like fan and you're for fan, but will you be also helping Cav out at any time at these races, or
I was on board since the discussion last year.
Right.
Because I mean, last year we were trying to see how we could do it and just nothing worked out. And then this year, it came up again. And I mean, I put in my 2 cents. That's all I could do. And I mean, I've known Cav a very, very long time, and I respect his ability, and Cav's changed a lot since becoming a father. And I mean, Yahtzee, his wife, is, a very, a good person, and I think that she has made Cav a different person as well. And I think the responsibilities of, the family and everything, and him realizing that, racing isn't going to always be there, I think has changed him. And he still has the fire.
Yeah.
I think he's learned how to channel it a different way now. And I think with the right support, which he's going to have all the support that's out there. Now, I'm not taking anything away from S-Works, and I'm not taking.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Because, hey, S-Works gave him quality cars.
Yes.
It's
a difference from being at that track and having input from 20 to 30 guys at all different various. Maybe you don't get all the input, but you know what I mean.
But I was there with them 2 years ago at Silver State.
Yes.
When Elliott Boots and him were there, and Boots won, the Silver.
I know.
Those two worked really good together.
Yeah.
And they made their cars really good there. Okay. Now, last year, if Boots, and Cav could have got together and ran some more, would it have been a different, direction? I don't think so. I think Cav is to the point where he realized that coming back to TLR is probably the best thing for him.
I think it was the best thing for him as well.
I think it's a great thing for TLR. I think it's a good thing for Dakota and him, because now they're going to push each other with equal equipment. Okay. Dakota's cars are going to be prepared a little bit better than his because I out prepare Lewis all day long.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just kidding. But, equipment wise, they're going to be equal. They're going to have the same stuff and they're going to be able to go out and they're going to be able to race.
Yep.
And they're going to race each other. And Cav's got a lot of stuff to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yep.
Even though he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder, he's got a chip on his shoulder.
He doesn't actually need to have a chip on his shoulder because he's more decorated than anybody out there at the corner.
He's, if not the greatest, one of the greatest to ever race an RC car.
Yep. But I love him. I like it. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I heard he was practicing after the race at CRC.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. That shows me that he wants to do it.
Well, he wants to learn. He says, I still have things to learn. I mean, I talked to him. They went and ran last weekend, the other day. And, I talked to Dunford about it. And I mean, he said, yeah, by the end of the day, he was feeling a little more, comfortable and stuff. But you got to remember, there's nuances on everything. We have, I'm giving Dakota a brand new car.
Right.
For the warm-up race. And I mean, I'm not talking about just a brand new car. I'm a totally different setup car.
Right. I know what you mean.
That I've been testing, along with Dunford. We've been, the guys have been testing parts and stuff like that. And we're always working towards making our cars better. And I mean, you never know when a new, evolution of the 8X is coming.
Right.
Right. But you do know that, that we're always working and we're always trying to improve. And I mean, we found some major improvements. And Dakota hasn't driven these improvements yet. I have.
I'm gonna have to come DNC. I think I'm gonna have to come DNC her if
well,
it happens.
I just know that my car before last year's DNC was good.
Okay.
And then we proved that, with the setup wise, that it was good at the race. My car now is the best car I've ever driven. Okay, for an A-scale car.
Interesting. Are you going to be racing DNC?
No.
As well? Okay, just there as a mechanic.
No. I told you, big races.
Right.
Dakota wants me to race.
Where was you?
I don't want to race.
Yeah, well, you're going to be busy anyway.
I still have the mentality, and I will always have the mentality of a pro racer when I go there. If I'm not prepared enough to go, I'm not going to go.
Understandable.
And for me, being prepared is running every single weekend. And with COVID, I can't go and do that. I can't trust everybody out there. I mean, I may not be at DNC this year.
Right. I understand.
Dakota will be there. I may not be there.
Understandable.
I'll be there in spirit and in everything else. But I can tell you going there that his cars are prepared properly and they're ready to go. And we'll see. Like I told him for this weekend, he's coming out for this weekend to go to the warm-up race. And I said, your job's not to win this race. Your job is to make sure your car is broken in properly and your drivetrain's broken in properly. And your job is to win the DNC race.
Well, he's going to want to win the warm-up. Everybody wants to win the warm-up.
See, I never wanted to win warm-up races. I never wanted to win warm-up races. I always just wanted to go and test. And I mean, I led warm-up races for world championships, and they have an A main practice, right? For like a practice race and then warm-up races for worlds.
Right.
And no one's ever won the warm-up for Cleveland and then won Cleveland, and people would just pull off on the last lap leading, just knowing that they because they would never win.
Right.
So
I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a couple more questions, then we're gonna wrap it up here.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I know. I can see your back's hurting. You've been sitting up there. I know. It's late. I'm gonna have to sneak home. Her 8:25. Her quick questions. Would you like to see? I would like to see it. I would like to see more charisma, more personality, more attitude in RC. Would you like to see somebody probably with a similar attitude towards yours, but maybe embracing it a bit more and making like me? I want to see that guys and come like exactly what you say.
But I think you see it. I think you see that attitude.
Okay.
I think you do. I just don't think people see it.
Okay.
I mean, there are a couple people out there that I feel have that same kind of killer instinct inside mental attitude,
Right.
but don't show it on the outside while walking back to the pits. But if they got behind closed doors, you would see it.
Right. I think that's because we're just so PC and RC. I think I think we should show people that, because I mean, we show it on the real side, like on a full scale side. Maybe, okay, not exactly going into somebody's, but I mean, yeah, what's about racing? You just lost, or you
But
could
but,
have won.
but here's the difference, okay? Here's the biggest difference between RC and the real side. A real side driver, okay,
Yes.
real side throws a helmet at another driver's car
Mm-hmm.
or something, or goes over and pushes them and gets fined $50,000. The
Right.
team gets fined whatever, $50,000, whatever. Okay. In RC, somebody gets a paycheck held out for them for a month. That's a lot of chunk of change, where
Right.
$50,000 is nothing to
Mm-hmm.
the person who makes over $1
This is
million
true.
a
This
year.
is true. I'm not saying we
But
should
what are you
go out
going
there.
to find an RC guy $5, $10, because that's about where you're equaled out. Do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
get it. I get that. I don't want to see, obviously, I don't want to see physical altercations, but I'm talking more. You was openly confident. Does that make sense? Like when you could come in and say, "Hey, who's
I was a
coming?"
dick.
Right, right. But I want somebody. I'm not saying I want people to be a dick. Like they got to be nice to new people and all that type of stuff, but not to their competition. I don't want like I really would like if I could sign a top guy, I would be like, okay, I give you free. All right, now let's not. I don't give you free reign, but let's have some imagination and bring some. I want to see more charisma and more excitement in that side of RC. I think we desperately need it. Like just characters, like like it or not, you was Barry Baker, the fabulous one. You know what I mean? And then you had Quartz, who was the bad boy of RC for one time.
Here's a question I have for you, and you can ask multiple people in the industry from all over the place. Okay,
Mhm.
without my attitude, okay, without the crap that I caused throughout, with my credentials and everything, would I have been one of the best racers to ever race RC?
That's true. That's true.
Right? But I'm not mentioned in any of those
Right.
conversations. Okay,
I
because all they remember is Barry broke his hand.
Mhm.
Barry did this. You could do 1,000 good things in this industry, 1,000, and you do one bad thing, and that's all people talk about.
It's funny because I'm gonna come back from that interview again. I remember you said in 2000, I think it was in 2002, I won this, I won that, I won that, I won every national out there, I won this, I won that. And I for sure thought I was gonna be the reader's choice for the reader. I think he was talking to Derek and the Reader's Choice Awards
Yeah.
and it ended up being Adam Drake. And you're like, this guy just won DNC. I won every one-word race out there in America.
I don't even
But
think he won DNC. I just think he had the most advertisements in RC car action by
right,
Trinity and everybody else. But you know what? But to this day, Adam's still Adam. He's
right,
still the same person.
right.
Just the other day, we're at the track. Tunes my engine, like walks up and goes, and he did the break in. I think that's a great thing. If anybody has engine stuff to do,
Mhm.
do the Drake in stuff. I mean, he's there 100% supportive and everything. I mean, I had this engine broken in. I just wanted to try it. And I was having this weird thing happening with the needle. And he comes over, and within 2 minutes, my engine's like running perfect. I know engines.
Mhm.
He knows engines. There's a
Right.
difference.
He told Joseph once, learn to tune. It was so
Right.
funny.
But I mean, it was like amazing. And this engine was like perfect. But,
Mhm.
you know, and then I sent him an email the next day, and I'm like, thanks. And he's like, anytime.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what he does.
Mhm.
He will never change. He's that kind of a person. He's got killer mental attitude when it comes to racing. He hates to lose, but you never see that.
No, never. He does not show any emotion. He's very good at
I
that.
mean, there's an old saying that I heard a long time ago that I would love to put onto a shirt or something, but I can't remember who I heard it or where I heard it from, but it's something that stuck with me for a very long time. It's, I hate to lose more than I love to win.
Oh my gosh, that's a good statement. All right, last couple questions. What do you think about our industry right now, and what would you like to change? And can we make RC more popular to get more people into it? RC racing.
I think there's too many big races. I think too many people rely promoters
Hmm.
are trying to put all these big races out there because they realize that they can make a lot of money in their pocket, even though they say they don't make anything off the races. That's
They
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
do it if they couldn't make
you wouldn't
money.
be doing it if you're not making money. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think there's too many races, too many big races. I think regional racing needs to come back. I think that's a big thing. Rhonda's been a big proponent of Rhonda Drake. Club racing.
Yep.
And I would love to see club racing come back. I mean, there is a good club crowd and things like that, but I think that needs to come back. I think the paid racer, I think that you need to be established. You need to have a reason why to be paid as you're a representative of the company. You're not just out on the track racing a stock motor around the track. I don't think anybody who races in stock racing should be paid.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
I don't think there should be bonuses for stock racing.
It should be the amateur class. Amateur. That should be your stepping stone.
Well, no, I'm just saying that these companies are putting out money. And I mean, people who are going to listen to this are going to call me a jerk for saying that, but I think it's the God's honest truth. I don't think, in my opinion, I think that these people are ruining racing. You know, going to the track, and I mean, it's like, how do you sell a motor that's $170 and you tell them that $100 is because of the labor that you put into it?
Yeah, I get that.
And then they have these motors that are like, you know, the top 1% or the top 2% of these motors, and these are, you know, the reason why you're paying this much money. Well, get a better manufacturer that makes all the motors the same.
Yeah. Or go to handout motors for these races.
I think every single, if I held a stock race, okay, you literally would unsolder your motor after the run, you would put it in a barrel. The next race, somebody else would come up, or you would come up for your next race, and you would pull into a barrel and pull out another motor and go solder it in. And you'd have to work, you know, I know that's a lot of work and everything, but I mean, it's like that's how it should be. I mean, stock racing is supposed to be spec for a reason. There's nothing spec out of it when you're charging batteries at 70 amps and you're ruining batteries. And the only people that are going fast are these factory drivers that have access to brand new batteries every single race. Okay. How is that helping the industry?
Not at all, because it's not an entry level class, and that's what stock should be.
It should be. It should be. And then all these drivers that race in the expert and pro class at their club races, but then when a big race comes around, I'm going to be a sportsman because I want a trophy.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, I mean, we're never going to get rid of classes in America anyway.
You think so?
No, I don't. I think it's just too well ingrained. There are people, for instance, I like to toot, but people that went to the RCGP in that's where you had in California in 2019.
Yep.
A lot of them came out of there amazed at the amount of runtime they could get running one class. They got more runtime running one class there than they did at good running 3 classes at DNC and all these. But I mean runtime. I mean quality out there on the clock, knowing your time runtime, like practice sessions, qualifying, all that type of stuff.
Who got the most amount of runtime?
The RC2 guys who raced the RCGP. Oh, the guy who won, obviously.
No.
Who?
No, the pro guys.
Oh, well, they had 2 races.
Yeah, but the guys who don't pay for anything. They don't pay for their entry fee. They don't pay for this. They don't pay for, why are they getting the most amount of runtime? Why?
Because the point was to pull out the pro guys. But I get it. I get what you're saying.
You said what's going to make it better? How about the people that pay for their stuff?
Yeah, they got a shit ton of runtime.
They're the ones who should be getting the runtime. They're the ones who should be getting this stuff.
I agree, but they got plenty of runtime. It's just that the pro race was only those 12 drivers, and they had to run them That's just a bit. But I'm just saying the people in the RC2 class,
2 drivers out there, and it would have been the same result.
but I understand that. I'm just trying to say the RC2 class, people couldn't understand that they could get so much quality track time from one class, and with spec tires, so it made it even cheaper.
Yeah, but another thing is if you had the other classes, people would have had more quality time. That's what I'm trying to say. No, they're thinking it's going to be better. The only reason why they didn't do that is because you don't have truggy.
No, but that's the whole point. The point was to have.
But like in DNC, you're going to get the same amount of track time.
You don't. We added up the minutes, man. We added up the practice time and everything.
The reason why you're not.
The reason why people write the class is because they have another chance to win a trophy.
Entries.
Right. But we don't. The thing wasn't about getting entries.
The thing promoters want because they make more money.
I know that, but the point of RCGP was not to make money. It in fact lost money.
Maybe it needed to make money. So then keep going.
I know, but they are going to keep going. But I agree with you. I 100% agree with you, man. We have too many classes.
You're getting me fired up over.
After 2.5 hours, you're firing up. No, I'm only joking.
Well, no, I'm getting fired up because these are the kind of stuff you ask me. How do you improve RC?
Mm-hmm.
I think RC is in a downwards. I think it's.
I agree with you.
How do I say this? Because of the when I started racing, there was stock and there was modified. I think we went through this 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. Okay, there was stock and there was modified. There was not this. There was a rookie class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then there was stock and there was modified. There was no intermediate, no beginner, no sportsman, no this, no that, no anything. Stock and modified. Okay, there was at a stock national. Okay, the one that Rossetti won up in Northern California. Okay, I think it was or Washington or something. There was like a double R main. That means A through Z, double A through double R.
No way. That's incredible. That's where the money is.
350 entries in one stock class.
Right. Not participants.
Not participant. No, that is participants in one stock class.
Right. Exactly. Right. And because we brag about entries.
How many times have you seen there were 200 entries at this race? 74 people.
I agree with you because we use that entries thing. It's a placebo to boost our ego, to tell us that RC is doing good because we had 500 entries in there, but it was the same 225 people running 3 classes or more.
Right.
So we are in a downward spiral, but people just, to me, it feels like we put our heads in the ground and we just say, we're not going to, we're doing all right. When we like, if we look at it, RC racing
is fake news.
Yeah. Here we go. It's feelings, not facts. The facts is that tracks are closing on. There are less people racing. Racing is expensive. The tire game's crazy. Track, all this type of stuff.
You talk to Associated, you talk to Horizon, you talk to well, they're doing great. It's the best year they've ever had. Want to know why?
Side.
What's that?
They have the basher crawling, all that side. That's why.
They have all that side. But the hobby shops aren't the ones. The online shops are making money.
Yes.
But the local hobby shop isn't, because the local hobby shop has to close down.
Yep.
But the online shop doesn't have to close down.
It doesn't have the overhead that they do.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I agree.
So.
And that's where we lose a lot, because I said something today. I said club racing's for new people to learn how to race and for you to enjoy yourself and have fun, not big races. Big races, I said this. I said club racing should be for people to get into RC, to learn it, and you to have fun. And big races we should use to promote RC to new people. But the promoters aren't interested in that. So, that's a whole nother spiel for another thing. But yeah, man, we definitely need to make some changes in RC, and we need to stop saying it's okay and fooling ourselves with numbers of entries and start looking at the numbers of participants, because that tells the real story, in my opinion.
I agree.
All right.
Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to these other classes and everything. I mean, and then you get people that are like, okay, like myself or somebody racing the over 40 class a few years ago. How do you sandbag an age class?
I don't know, but I mean,
I mean, they had the Legends class at DNC a few years ago. Okay, and the Legends class, you know, but then they dropped down the age to bring in all the fast guys still that could make the A in the other class. It's like,
right. I remember JQ was supposed to run that.
All that is to give you more track time.
Yeah, because what if you could get more track time from running one class?
But then everybody was pissed off at Adam at DNC racing, you know, the over 40. But how do you stop that?
Yeah, you can't. He's over 40.
There's only one way you stop that. Okay. That if you race over 40, you cannot race in an expert or pro class. Okay. Because those over 40 guys, okay, only want to race. I mean, most of the over 40 guys, other than a Richard, myself, or Adam, are all intermediate guys anyway.
Right. Right.
Okay. And I consider myself, if I was to race in the intermediate class, I don't think I could win.
It's not easy.
No, but I think I'd be probably top 5, but at least I'm honest about that.
Right. I know what you mean.
Okay. Like Paul Ciccarello. Okay. You know, he's racing in the pro classes, which I respect. And then he raced in the over 40 and does well in the over 40. And if he makes the A in the pro classes on the East Coast, it's great. But at a big race, he's usually in the B or the C.
Right.
You know, but that's cool. But at least he's doing it because he wants to maximize his track time.
Right.
Okay. But if you asked him why he's not racing intermediate, he's like, I'm a sponsored guy. Okay.
Maybe he doesn't. He feels.
But would he race intermediate? Probably, because he knows that that's about the level where he should be.
Greg always talks about he's going to race open next time at DNC.
Greg will never be able to race open because you want to know why?
Why is that?
He's got the same issue that I have with a Jimmy or a Joey or somebody like that. We've done too much in this industry for them to ever let us run a different class than the pro class.
Right.
I could be 80 years old and not driven for the last 30 years, and I will still be known from Jimmy, and he will not let me run an intermediate class.
But I come on, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 years after you guys peak. I think you should be, I don't know. That's why we have the over 40 class too, for you guys to compete.
But I'm also, when they come down to it, they say, are you a sponsored racer? I mean, I am, and I'm not. I have,
right.
You know, am I sponsored for racing, or am I sponsored because I'm consulting to help other things?
Right. So yeah, I get it.
Why do I get product? So how do you answer that? Because if I'm not a chassis sponsor at all, I could be able to race sportsmen under the technicality.
Well, but let's be honest. I think that's a dumb rule because everybody's sponsored nowadays, and sponsorship does not dictate the level of your talent, of your ability.
Do you have a credit card?
Yes.
You can be sponsored.
Unfortunately, this is the way.
It's the way of the world. Can I get a 50% deal? Here's my credit card.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have to figure out that's never going anywhere, but that's one of my, I mean, even though I have to do it because I'm part of that problem, but I didn't make the game. I'm just playing it, you know, but I tried to give my guys some value.
But it's the people who keep playing the game and keeping it going are the problem.
This is true.
When is the industry going to get together and say, okay?
No, it takes the industry to get together. I think I would love for the managers, just the team managers, to get together and establish some rules. And what I mean by rules, just simple rules.
They tried to, but now you have all these subcontractor sponsorships.
Oh.
I mean, we got all these smaller companies that have race teams now that are getting help from the bigger companies.
This is true. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying. And what are they doing? They're sponsoring stock guys. It's another way to get a big company to run stock drivers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's right.
Alan Horn did it. Alan Horn did it the right way with factory tracks.
Right.
Okay. He got his local up and comers to support factory tracks, the race team. And he got them help and said, I can get you better prices and stuff, but let's support, this and let's do the local stuff. And I mean, the look who's gone through the factory tracks team and have graduated to factory teams.
Right.
Okay.
Aiden Horn just moved up, I believe.
Rennerneck.
He did. Okay. I didn't know that.
He's done that stuff. I mean, I'm just saying that maybe Rennerneck didn't, but I know he was on. Alan and I talked about this.
I think Drayton was a part of the team too.
But I'm just saying, yeah. And I mean, look at Drayton. Drayton realized, hey, I'm too good for stock. Let me move up to modified. And I almost won this race.
Yeah. Well, see, with Drayton, he went to mod 2 years ago and he didn't do well.
Right. And then he went back down.
And that's when I found out that stock people get paid. Like, I didn't know that. Like, and
I'm just saying that there's these companies out here that, first off, I don't know how they can afford to pay people, but they're paying people. So they must be living off of like shoestrings right now, and then, they're going to go and they're going to sponsor all these people. Well, are all these people 100% sponsored, or is this just another way for a company to get a contracted customer?
I understand that, man. Or I don't know, man. The one thing I do know is that we need more people racing RC cars.
Yeah.
And I don't care how we do that.
COVID's not helping right now.
Right.
There are a lot of people that are not going to the track because of COVID, and there's also people that are going to the track. Now, all these people that don't believe COVID can get spread in an RC racetrack need to, take a reality check on this stuff. These people who are going to these 300, 400 entry races, okay, and saying, oh my gosh, the COVID's not real and it's just a hoax, and, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. How about Charlie Barnes, who passed away? Okay.
Because I didn't know, but rest in peace to him.
Yes.
I saw that.
But do you know he contracted COVID at a Toys for Tots race he held? No, I didn't. From another RC racer that also passed away. Wow. That's a shame, man. And here I am. I get excited about these races. It takes is one person. Yes. One person. Okay. And everybody says, oh, you're living in fear. You're living in this. You're living in that. You know what? Charlie Barnes had some underlying health issues. I have underlying health issues. Mm-hmm. Okay. These new variants and everything. I go to the track. I stop by to go pick up a part, and I look around, and 2% of the people are maybe wearing a mask, and nobody's enforcing it. The track owners aren't enforcing it. Track owners barely, doing it because they need the business. Yeah. It's such a, I try not to get onto those things, but it's just creating more division. You know what I mean? And I like her. We can't do anything here in the Dominican Republic, a third world country. These people, here know you can't go into any business without a mask on. You can't even really be walking the streets without a mask on. You know what I mean? It's just that's how it is. And people do it. I mean, we all have to look out for each other. I understand what you mean, man, because I'm deciding. I want to be there. I want to go race. Right. I want to do this. But you know what? I can't jeopardize the research group that I work for at Caltech to do that. I have been tested 11 times. Okay. In the last 3 months. Wow. 11 times. And I've been negative every single time. But we've had people that have tested positive that I have been in contact with that, but I didn't catch it. Right. Okay. But they tested positive. And I mean, I'm just saying that it's that one time that you do catch it or that something happens. I mean, I was an essential worker when the whole shutdown happened. I was at work every single day. And I mean, to be able to miss all this stuff. And I mean, for the racers to go out and quite honestly, they're putting their life on the line every time they're going to these races.
I think if we all just kind of respected each other and abided by rules for each other, even if you may not believe in that stuff, but just to make other people, I don't know, man. We just don't have that issue here, like with people not wanting to wear masks and all that type of stuff. We just don't have it. People just wear it
because your
do
people respect your government.
Well,
and they
also said they also might throw you in jail here if you don't do it. So
exactly,
But
in the United States, they're too afraid to upset anybody.
Right.
And there's too much division in the United States.
Oh, I agree.
It's like Gord Tessman said. He goes, they're very welcoming to welcome everybody into the country. Where Canada's like, stay out.
Right.
So he says that he's going to come here and run down here for like a month.
Right.
With Ty, because if he goes home, he has to quarantine for 2 weeks. If he doesn't quarantine, they can get into massive federal trouble.
Yeah.
They don't have that rule in the United States. In the United States, you could fly in from a different country and they'd be like, hey, why don't you go over here today?
Well, I mean, I have to fly in from a different country as well. Yeah. I hope we can get this, because I love racing and I want to get to racing, and I hope we can all just fucking get through this COVID shit, come together somewhat, because the one common thing that we do enjoy is RC racing.
Yeah, I agree.
And do it all together.
I want to see all my friends. I want to see, there's so many, the RC industry has given me so much in life. And I can never, this is me wanting to pay back to be there with people at the races and stuff and help out, because I didn't do it when I should have been doing it.
I get it.
And now I see that, and I want to build it up, and I want to make RC better than it's ever been.
I want to make it. I want to make it better with you.
I want to be involved with it to make it better. And being in the position I'm in TLR, I feel like, everybody that's involved between, Todd and Thomas and Ryan and Frank and Mike Mellon and Mike Holtzclaw and all the other engineers and everybody there and the team drivers and everything, we're making TLR better as a collective group. It's not just one person that made the difference, but it's somebody that saw a vision, 3-4 years ago, and started the ball rolling, and it all trickles down from the top. The decisions that Todd has made, the decisions that he's been brought upon to him, he's got to give the go ahead.
Right.
Okay. So if you give any of the credit to anybody, you give it to Todd at first, because Todd's in charge of these people who are in charge of these people who are in charge of these people. So it all flows down from the top. But who doesn't take the credit? Todd. And that shows you a good manager.
Right.
A good person who knows how to delegate authority, who knows how to put the right people in the right positions, and if they're not in the right positions, how to rectify the situation. And now we're starting to see the fruits of their labor.
I think they are, because it was for the 3 or 4 years that I've been going to these races and stuff like that. I've been to RC way longer than that, but actually going to these races, 2019, 2020, and obviously going into this year I just think TLR is back like how they used to be back in the 90s, or when they were, you know what I mean, back when the AETLR beef was at its height.
You got to remember, at that time, those were the only real two teams.
Well, I mean, there are some other teams, but I definitely, like I told you, man, I think TLR is going to be a force to reckon with in 21.
Yeah, but all the best drivers were on those teams.
Right.
Now you don't have a 5-man best team anymore. You have maximum 2 people on any team.
On 8 scale.
You tell me.
I think Techno's got it. Techno's got 4 guys that will be in A-mains at almost every major event they can go to.
How many of them can win?
3. Okay, 1 can win. 2 have to prove themselves. I agree with you, and I also think they go into 2021 with 4.
Nothing against Joe. I think Joe's awesome.
I do
I
too, but he
think
should
Joe
be
could
winning
in
races
the
by
right
now.
position. I think Joe could be in the right position to win races.
Mhm.
There's only one on that
That's
team that is in contention at every single race.
That's Tebow. I agree. I agree
Okay.
with you. I agree
Now
with
let's
you.
go. Let's go AE.
No, they are lacking. If they don't bring, they have Spencer and eight's good. They have Spencer. They have Spencer, and they have yes, they don't not like they don't have the they can have Ongaro, but he's in Italy. You know what I mean? And he has yet to really win on U.S. soil against these guys. So I agree with you. You guys have got them in 8 scale.
No, I'm not even saying.
Right, I agree with you. They have Rivkin, then they have guys like Brunson and
He's
Lisa.
not even.
They're fast, but not.
We may have 2 that could win races.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we may have 2 that are that are proven winners. Okay, they're not even the favorite. Who's the best A scale racer
right now? Right now, at this current time, I would have to say Mayfield. No, but I think the true number 1 is Ronafalk, but I think Mayfield's the top driver right now. He just won SIC.
I think you could take 5 guys, put them in a hat,
and toss
and race 10 times, and each one of them would win 2. Maybe one of them would win 3 times.
Who's your 5 guys
in A scale right now?
Yeah,
Ronafalk, Mayfield, Tebow, Dakota, and Cav.
I wouldn't disagree with you there. I wouldn't, and I would throw Ongaro in there too.
Yeah.
But,
and I think, okay, now let's go up to like 7 or 8 on Ongaro and Elliott Boots.
Yeah, Boots and Canas.
I don't think so.
He was blazingly fast at the RCGP run that I went to.
Yep, blazingly fast. Proven winner. Blazingly fast. Proven winner.
He's beaten. He's now
proven winner.
Yes, he won Montpellier last year.
Who was there?
Ronafalk, Badier, Ongaro.
Okay.
Yeah, Montpellier is a stacked race. Lots went. He's good, man. He's good. He's really good.
I'm just saying, in this world right now, there's probably in the world. You got to put Robert in there for top 10.
I would. Okay, so yeah, top 10. It's more Europeans than Americans for me, I think.
In the top 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we got Mayfield, Tebow, Ronafalk.
No, let's go European that you say is in the top 10.
Ronafalk, Ongaro, Boots, Canas, Badier, Barton, Barufalo.
Okay, Barufalo, incredible in qualifying.
Fast.
Will break out of every single main I've ever seen.
I agree with you, but if he could back it on, he's on.
We're talking proven.
I know. I'm just saying.
Into this right now. You give me proven winners that are consistently that can finish races.
So we're not going to take Barufalo, but those guys finish races, and 3 of them are world champions. And
five, I'll believe 5 out of your 6.
Okay.
Berton, I still say Berton, no.
Okay, he's a European champion. So
there's 5. Okay. Okay.
And so you have Mayfield, Cav, Tebow, Fend, and who else we got? Oh, and Cav. So that's 5. I think it's equal.
No, there was only 4. We're only up to 9.
All right, so we have Cavallari, Mayfield. All right, so we're doing Americans now.
Okay.
Mayfield, Cav, Tebow, Fend, and who else did I say? Do we consider Tessman? Was he a Canadian?
I consider him a Roar member, so yes, Tessman.
I would put Tessman in there too for my top 5 American guys. But there's a bunch of young guys coming up snipping at heels. But once again, we're
talking proven.
Right, but it's not their time. Their time will come.
Right.
But proven, yeah, I think those are the top 10 guys. I think you could take those top 10 guys and each one of them guys will win one race. But I think Runafalk, Mayfield, and will win
But
more races.
who do I believe is the number one guy in the world?
Yeah, who's the number one guy in the world for you?
Who do I believe?
Yeah.
I have to go with my boy. I have to go with Dakota.
He has to prove himself too.
Yeah, you're right.
He has to prove himself, and he can do it in 8 skill. He has to just stay together, and he can do it.
I believe it. But you know what? If I don't have belief in him as the number one guy,
then you ain't doing it.
Then I'm not doing my job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this discussion. But real quick, one last question before I go. Nickname, fabulous one. How long have you had it? How did you get it?
1992. Was it 92? Yeah, 1992. I was racing at the 10 scale on-road worlds at the Ranch Pit Shop in Pomona. And I made the main, and during the introduction, John Thawley, God rest his soul, was the announcer, and he said, and I guess the Fabulous Baker Boys was a movie that came out a year or two before, and he just said, the Fabulous Barry Baker. He announced it as, your 7th qualifier from, San Diego, California, and he said, the Fabulous Barry Baker, and it started as the Fabulous Barry Baker, then it went to the Fabulous one, and then it just went to Fab, and yeah, so
that's a serious nickname to have.
Yeah.
Barry, I thank you for your time. I know we could probably chat for a couple more hours, and we have to have a part 2 of this at some point.
I don't even think we touched on any of the topics that we actually were going to touch on.
I have a whole bunch of topics here that I missed, but that's all right because that's how things go. And
I think we babbled for 3 hours and really accomplished nothing other than the last 10 minutes of arguing about established drivers.
That's usually how my life is. 3 hours of babbling and 10 minutes of serious stuff. But it's a great journey, and I love it, and I love your stories, and I love how you think in RC, man. And I'm glad you came on her because I know I was trying to get you on, and you was trying to get in contact with you. So thank you for coming on.
I just want you to edit this way down to maybe just an hour of our discussions or whatever.
It's been 3 hours. I don't edit none of that stuff.
Well, I mean, people are going to be listening to this, and
people will enjoy this.
People won't listen to the whole 3 hours.
No, they probably won't, but they will. You know why? Because it's you, and they think they might miss something.
You just need to tell everybody the best parts, in the last 20 minutes or whatever. But hey, I just want to tell people, that are out there that have a bad perception of me. I mean, they heard me admit it throughout the whole thing. I mean, maturity, getting older, finding the right people in your life that settle you down. Being happy with what you're doing, those are all the things that have made me to where I am right now. And I just want people to understand that, you go to the track, I'm going to help as much as I possibly can. And whether you're running a TLR car, you're running an Associated car, you're running a Mugen car, you're running, an S-Works, whatever, you need help, come and ask. I'm not going to turn you away. I'm going to be there, for support. And when we're at big races, come by, say hi. I mean, this is, I can talk, for hours with people and tell them stories and things like that. I mean, but I'm here. I want people to enjoy the hobby because it's a hobby that's given me so much in my life, and I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now and the happiness that I have within the industry. And I can't thank, TLR. I can't thank Todd and Kevin Gahan that gave me this opportunity to be a consultant. And the trust that Dakota and Ryan Dunford have in me to work on, with the 8 scale program, and even, Frank Root with the 10 scale program. I mean, it's really fun. And the Fullers and the Rendernecks and, Cav coming on, I think, we have a really good team. But, for everybody out there that don't really know me and just heard stories about how much of a jerk I was and loudmouth and everything, I was. It's the truth. Everything you heard is the truth. It's not a lie, but the people who can admit it and the people who can accept it, are the people that I still talk to all the time. And I mean, I still have some really good friendships because of this. So
awesome people, man. I've met so many good people in RC in my time. I'm friends with to this day. So I know
Yeah,
all
but
about.
I also say this, Keenan, you gotta really you gotta understand this. In the RC industry, I have a couple handfuls of friends, but I have hundreds and hundreds of acquaintances.
Yeah.
People who say that, hey man, I met you back, we're friends. We're not friends, we met.
Yeah.
But my true friends, I still talk, gosh, I just talked to Cyril and Lemieux over Christmas break, during Christmas, called them up and them and just,
Are they still doing RC things too? Or are they
uh,
completely out?
Josh is making lakes for his daughters to skate on for ice skating.
Right.
Lemieux, owns, RC Gravity and owns, Motive RC, and he's doing great with it. So yeah, but I mean, just all the stuff. And I appreciate everybody, that's listening and wants to reach out or, say hi. I mean, I'm always here. So, and I appreciate you having me on. And I know this took almost a year.
I know, but it's good. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Hopefully one of these days we can do a live.
We can definitely
have people come in and ask questions, because that's the fun part, is when people ask you questions and, they ask you the ones and you're like, wow, that's a good question.
You know what? We're going to hold you to that. We're going to do a live this week. Maybe after DNC, we can do, no, fuck, that's a long time away. We can do that before DNC, actually. What am I talking about?
Whatever. Just get a hold of me. You got me.
Hey, you know what, man? And one thing I picked up from this conversation, and I hope it happens, because I know you have a lot of respect for him. I hope the day comes that you and Clifflet can shake hands again and talk about old times. I do, because I can hear in your voice the respect you have for him. So I hope that happens, man. I think you're on a great path. Like, I honestly, if I'd have known you back then, we probably would have gotten a fight. But because I just didn't. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. It ain't gonna be a good looking fight. We're both fat and we're both just not on one arm. But I can see where you learn from that. Like, you know what I mean? Where you matured and now it's made you the man that you are. And I think you're absolutely, the time I've spent with you in the pits has been hilarious. You've always been nice to me. I always joke with you and talk about Greg and stuff like that. But I think I do hope that happens for you, because I think that would be some closure for you. So I hope that happens.
I mean, I'm just, we'll see. We'll see.
Thank you, because you may have been a dick and all this type of stuff, but you made a contribution to RC, and RC probably wouldn't have been the same without Barry Baker in it.
Well, I appreciate that, but let's move forward and let's keep going, and hopefully, But
I'm not picking Fenn for DNC. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm gonna pick Cav, but you'll see. I
mean, it's great for TLR. Even though one of us wins, and I think Dakota would even feel this way, because Dakota spent a very long time developing and dealing with cars, whether they're good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So a win, sure, he wants to win, but he's also
team effort.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very big team effort, and I think that it can happen. So
that's how it's supposed to be, man. That's what it's about. All right, Barry. Well, thank you for your time, buddy. And I will be in contact with you. And good luck at the warm up, and have fun. And
thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Nitro is the glory, but E-Buggy pays the bills.